They said revenge is a dish best served cold. But when Aria Bennett watched her ex-fiancé steal everything she'd built, her restaurant, her recipes, her entire future, she learned that some betrayals burn so hot they turn you to ash. 3 years later, she's just another face in the crowd at a glittering gala, serving the people who forgot she ever mattered. Then she sees him, Daniel Cross, richer, untouchable, ready to destroy her all over again. But tonight, something's different. Tonight, she's not alone. And the man standing beside her? He doesn't forgive, he doesn't forget. He annihilates. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this tale travels. The kitchen at Luminance Event smelled like rosemary and failure. Aria Bennett stood at the prep station, her hands moving through muscle memory as she arranged canapes that cost more than her weekly rent. Goat cheese, fig jam, a sprig of thyme placed just so. Perfect little lies on perfect little plates. She'd stopped tasting the food 2 years ago. Aria, we need those appetizers in 5. Marcus, the floor manager, poked his head through the service door. Sweat beaded on his forehead despite the industrial air conditioning. The guests are arriving and Mr. Voss wants everything perfect. When doesn't he? She didn't look up. Her fingers worked the plating with the precision of someone who used to care, used to dream, used to believe that talent mattered more than connections. That was before Daniel. Marcus hesitated. Listen, about tonight. I know. She cut him off, her voice flat. Big event, important people. Don't screw it up. That's not what I... He stopped, sighed. Never mind. Just be careful out there. The warning prickled against her skin, but she pushed it away. Marcus was always worried about something. It was his job to worry. Her job was to make food that people would Instagram and forget. She lifted the tray and headed for the service elevator. The grand ballroom of the Carlisle Hotel looked like someone had weaponized elegance. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto marble floors. Ice sculptures sweated onto tables dressed in cream silk. Women in gowns that cost more than cars laughed at jokes that weren't funny, while men in tuxedos made deals that would ruin lives by morning. Aria had learned to move through these spaces like a ghost, invisible, efficient, safe. She was halfway to the serving station when she heard the name. Daniel Cross just arrived, with Senator Morrison's daughter, apparently. The tray tilted, just slightly, just enough that a canapé slid half an inch to the left. No. I heard he's opening his 3rd location next month. The New York Times called him a culinary genius. Genius. The word tasted like copper in her mouth. Aria forced her hand steady and kept walking. She set down the tray, turned to head back to the kitchen, and that's when she saw him. Daniel Cross stood near the entrance, backlit by the glow of success. He'd always been handsome, sharp jawline, dark eyes, the kind of smile that made people trust him before they knew better. But 3 years had refined him into something more dangerous, polished, powerful, untouchable. The woman on his arm looked barely 25, all blonde hair and practiced grace. She laughed at something he said, and Aria remembered laughing like that once, before she learned what his promises were worth. Her chest tightened, the room tilted. She turned toward the service hall, but her legs had stopped taking orders from her brain. She just stood there, frozen in the middle of the glittering crowd, watching the man who'd stolen her life walk past like she didn't exist. Because to him, she didn't. Miss Bennett. The voice came from behind her, low, controlled. The kind of voice that didn't ask for attention. It commanded it. Aria turned. Adrian Voss stood 3 feet away, holding a glass of scotch he hadn't touched. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in a painting, sharp cheekbones, gray eyes that saw too much, a suit that probably cost what she used to make in 6 months. He was her employer, sort of. Luminance Events was one of 12 companies he owned, and she'd seen him maybe 3 times in 2 years. Each time he'd watched her with the same unnerving intensity he showed now. Mr. Voss. She tried to sound professional, normal, like her entire world wasn't dissolving. Is something wrong with the catering? No. He took a step closer. But something's wrong with you. I'm fine. You're not. His gaze flicked past her toward Daniel. You know him. It wasn't a question. Aria's throat closed. I should get back to the kitchen. You should stay. Why? The word came out sharper than she intended. So I can watch him celebrate stealing everything I built? No thanks. Adrian's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. He didn't just steal your restaurant, did he? She laughed. It sounded broken. You've done your homework. I always do. He set down his scotch on a passing waiter's tray. 3 years ago, you were the rising star at Michelin, top of your class at the Culinary Institute, engaged to Daniel Cross. Together, you developed the menu that would become the foundation of Ember, the restaurant that made him famous. Stop. You signed the business over to him because you trusted him, because you loved him. And 2 weeks before the grand opening, he ended the engagement, kept the restaurant, and erased your name from everything. I said stop. Adrian tilted his head. He took your recipes, your vision, your future, and when you tried to fight back, his family's lawyers buried you so deep that no reputable restaurant would hire you. So you disappeared into event planning, where no one asks questions about your past. Aria's hands clenched. Why are you doing this? Because tonight, he's planning to humiliate you again. The room dropped 10 degrees. What? Adrian gestured toward the far side of the ballroom. See the reporter from Taste magazine? Daniel invited her specifically to cover his presence at this event. And he made sure she knew you work here, catering, for minimum wage. Aria's vision blurred. You're lying. I don't lie. I prepare. He pulled a phone from his pocket, tapped the screen, and turned it toward her. An email. From Daniel's publicist to the reporter. Subject line, story angle, from partner to staff. She read the first line and stopped breathing. Thought you'd enjoy the irony. My ex-fiancée Aria Bennett will be serving appetizers at tonight's gala. The woman who thought she could build Ember without me is now... The rest dissolved into white noise. He's going to make a statement tonight, Adrian continued quietly. Something about how success requires more than talent, how some people are meant to lead and others are meant to serve. The reporter will eat it up. By tomorrow morning, your name will be a punchline in every culinary blog from here to San Francisco. Aria couldn't move, couldn't think. 3 years. 3 years of rebuilding herself from nothing, and he was going to crush her again just because he could. Why are you telling me this? Her voice came out raw. Adrian was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his tone carried something she hadn't heard before, something almost personal. Because I know what it's like to be erased by someone you trusted, and because I'm offering you a choice. What choice? You can leave. Right now. Go home. Let him win again. He paused. Or you can stay. Let me handle this. Let me show you what happens when someone finally fights back. You don't even know me. I know enough. His gray eyes held hers. I know you spent 6 months developing a signature dish that combined French technique with Korean flavors. I know Daniel served it at Ember's opening without crediting you. I know it won him his first Michelin star. And I know that every day you work in that kitchen downstairs, you're dying a little more. The accuracy hurt worse than the memories. What do you want in return? Aria asked. Because men like Adrian Voss didn't offer help without expecting payment. Your trust. He said it simply. For tonight. That's all. That's not all. It's never just that. Something like respect flickered across his face. You're right, it's not. But the rest? We negotiate later. Right now, you decide. Do you want justice, or do you want to keep hiding? Across the room, Daniel laughed. The sound carried, confident and cruel. The reporter leaned in, notebook ready. Aria thought about the restaurant she'd dreamed of since she was 16. The recipes she'd perfected through countless sleepless nights. The moment she'd signed those papers, trusting the man she loved to build their future together. She thought about 3 years of silence, of shrinking, of pretending she didn't care, and something inside her, something she'd tried so hard to bury, finally cracked open. What do I need to do? Adrian's smile was cold and perfect. Nothing. Just stay close to me, and when it happens, don't run. When what happens? You'll know. He offered his arm. After a heartbeat, Aria took it. They moved through the crowd together and she felt the shift in energy immediately. People noticed Adrian. They always did. But tonight, with her beside him, the attention sharpened. Whispers followed them like a wake. Isn't that the catering girl? Why is she with Adrian Voss? Did they come together? Aria's face burned, but Adrian's grip on her arm tightened just slightly, steadying her. They stopped near the center of the room. Prime position. Maximum visibility. Daniel saw them. She watched the recognition hit, watched his expression cycle through surprise, confusion, and then something uglier. Calculation. He excused himself from his date and the reporter, crossed the floor with the easy confidence of someone who'd never lost anything that mattered. Aria. His smile was all teeth. Wow, I almost didn't recognize you. You look... He made a show of scanning her outfit, the simple black dress she wore for events, nothing like the designer gowns surrounding them. Well, you look exactly like what you are. The old Aria would have crumbled, would have apologized for existing in his space. The new Aria, the one Adrian had just handed a loaded gun, smiled back. Daniel, still compensating for mediocre talent with expensive suits? His jaw tightened. Still bitter, I see. Not bitter, just honest. She felt Adrian's presence beside her like a shield. How's the restaurant? Still serving my recipes? Our recipes, he corrected. You seem to forget. We built Ember together. No, I built it. You just learned how to sign your name on my work. Color rose in his cheeks. The reporter had drifted closer, sensing blood in the water. You signed the contracts, Aria. You gave me that restaurant because you knew you couldn't handle it. Too much pressure, too much responsibility. He pitched his voice loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. Some people are creators, others are maintainers. You were always better at following recipes than leading kitchens. The words landed like slaps. Around them, people pretended not to listen while hanging on every syllable. Aria felt something dark and fierce rising in her chest. But before she could respond, Adrian spoke. Interesting theory. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. Tell me, Cross, is that why you've been hiring consultants to redesign Ember's menu? Because the original creator can't help you anymore? Daniel's smile froze. I don't know what you're talking about. No? Adrian pulled out his phone, tapped, turned the screen toward Daniel. These invoices suggest otherwise. 3 different consulting firms in 2 years, all trying to recapture whatever magic made Ember successful in the first place. The blood drained from Daniel's face. Where did you... Those are private financial records. Nothing's private if you know where to look. Adrian's tone never changed. Calm, factual, devastating. You see, I've been considering investing in Ember. Due diligence is thorough. And what I found was illuminating. The reporter's pen was flying across her notebook now. Daniel's voice dropped to a hiss. You have no right. I have every right. I'm a potential investor. Adrian smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Although, based on what I've learned, I think I'll pass. Restaurants built on stolen foundations tend to collapse. It's only a matter of time. You bastard! Careful. The single word carried enough weight to stop Daniel mid-sentence. You're already one viral moment away from losing your 3rd location's investors. I'd hate for someone to leak those consultant contracts to, say, Taste Magazine. I imagine their readers would find it fascinating that the culinary genius can't actually create new dishes without expensive help. Silence expanded around them like a shockwave. Daniel looked at Aria, really looked at her, and for the first time in 3 years she saw something other than smugness in his eyes. Fear. This isn't over, he said quietly. You're right, Adrian agreed. It's not. Then he did something Aria didn't expect. He kissed her. Not gently, not tentatively. He pulled her close with one hand at the small of her back, the other cupping her face, and kissed her like she was the only person in the room. Like she mattered, like she was worth claiming in front of everyone who'd watched her fall. Aria's mind went blank. Then it went supernova. She kissed him back. Maybe it was the shock. Maybe it was 3 years of rage finding an outlet. Maybe it was the way his hand pressed against her spine like he was daring the world to try taking her away. When they broke apart, the ballroom had gone silent. Daniel stood frozen, his face a study in humiliation and fury. The reporter looked like Christmas had come early, And Adrian? Adrian looked at Aria like he'd just won something far more valuable than a business deal. "Shall we dance?" he asked quietly. Aria nodded. She didn't trust her voice. He led her to the floor as the orchestra started a waltz. His hand settled at her waist. Hers found his shoulder. They moved together with surprising ease, like they'd done this 1,000 times before. "You kissed me," she said finally. "I did." "Why?" "Because he needed to understand that you're not his to diminish anymore." Adrian's gray eyes held hers. "And because you needed to remember what it feels like to be someone's priority instead of their punchline." "I didn't ask for that." "I know." They turned and she caught sight of Daniel storming toward the exit, his date hurrying to keep up. The reporter was already on her phone, probably filing the story that would dominate tomorrow's news cycle. "You destroyed him," Aria said softly. "No, I exposed him. There's a difference." Adrian pulled her slightly closer as they navigated around another couple. "Destroying him comes later." Something in his tone made her look up sharply. "What does that mean?" "It means tonight was just the opening move, Aria. If you want real justice, if you want everything he took from you, this is only the beginning." "I don't understand." "You will." The waltz ended. Adrian stepped back but kept hold of her hand. "Meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office downtown, and I'll show you exactly what happens when someone finally fights back properly." "Why would I trust you?" "You shouldn't." He raised her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles. The gesture looked romantic, felt like a promise. "But you will anyway, because you're tired of being afraid. And because somewhere underneath all that carefully maintained invisibility, you're still the woman who is going to revolutionize American cuisine." He released her hand and stepped back. 10 a.m., Aria. Don't be late." Then he was gone, disappearing into the crowd like smoke. Aria stood alone on the dance floor, her heart hammering, her mind reeling. Around her, the gala continued. People danced and drank and pretended they hadn't just witnessed a public execution disguised as a kiss. She touched her lips. They still tingled. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marcus. "What the hell just happened? Everyone's talking about you." Another buzz. "An unknown number. Tomorrow. 10 a.m. The address is attached. AV, she should go home, should forget this entire night, should recognize that Adrian Voss was dangerous in ways that made Daniel look like a playground bully. But she'd spent 3 years being safe, being invisible, being dead. And tonight, for the first time since Daniel destroyed her, she'd felt alive. Aria looked across the ballroom. Through the windows, the city glittered like scattered diamonds. Somewhere out there, Daniel was probably already calling his lawyers, already planning his counterattack. Good. She hoped he was terrified. She hoped he couldn't sleep. She hoped he finally understood what it felt like to have the ground drop out from under you while the world watched. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Adrian. "You did well tonight. Get some rest. Tomorrow, things get interesting." Aria laughed. It sounded almost real. She deleted the message, pocketed her phone, and headed for the service elevator. But before she stepped inside, she allowed herself one last look at the ballroom, at the world that had erased her, at the people who'd forgotten she existed. And she smiled, because tomorrow morning she was walking into Adrian Voss's office, and whatever waited for her there, danger, manipulation, revenge, or something worse, it had to be better than the slow death of safety. She'd been a ghost for 3 years. It was time to haunt back. The elevator doors closed on the sound of music and laughter, and Aria Bennett descended into the dark with her heart in her throat and her future in the hands of a man who just kissed her like a declaration of war. She should have been terrified. Instead, she couldn't wait for tomorrow. Done. The apartment Aria came home to was small and forgettable. 1,200 square feet of beige walls and builder-grade fixtures in a neighborhood where nobody asked questions. She'd moved here after the lawyers finished with her, after her savings account flatlined, after she learned that starting over meant accepting whatever you could afford. She dropped her keys on the counter and stood in the dark. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts from people she hadn't heard from in years. Friends, or people she'd thought were friends, who'd gone silent when Daniel's lawyers sent their cease and desist letters. Now they wanted details. Gossip. Confirmation. "OMG, is it true you're dating Adrian Voss? I saw the video. You looked amazing. Girl, please tell me you're taking Daniel down. Video. Of course there was video. Aria ignored them all and pulled up her email. The first message made her stomach drop. Subject: Interview request. Taste magazine. She deleted it without reading. Second message: Legal notice, Cross Enterprises. Her hand shook as she opened it. The language was dense and threatening, but the message was clear. Any further defamation against Daniel Cross or Ember Restaurant would result in immediate legal action. The email referenced tonight's incident and warned her against making additional false claims regarding the restaurant's origins. Aria laughed. It came out harsh and bitter. He was scared. She closed the email and opened the attachment Adrian had sent. An address downtown. The Voss Building. 60 stories of steel and glass that dominated the skyline. She should have felt intimidated. Instead, she felt hungry. Not for food. She hadn't felt that kind of hunger in years. This was different, sharper. The kind of hunger that came from finally seeing a path forward after years of standing still. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then instinct made her thumb the accept button. Aria Bennett? A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. Who is this? Catherine Wu. I represent Daniel Cross and Ember Restaurant. I'm calling to strongly advise you. Let me stop you there. Aria's voice came out steadier than she expected. You're calling to threaten me. To warn me that if I keep talking about Ember, you'll bury me in legal fees I can't afford. Is that about right? Silence on the other end. Then, Ms. Bennett, I understand you're upset about how your relationship with Mr. Cross ended. My relationship? You mean the business partnership where I developed every recipe, created the entire concept, and signed away the rights because I trusted him? That's not how the contracts read. Because he wrote them, after we were already engaged, after I'd already given him everything. Ms. Bennett, tell Daniel something for me. Aria walked to her window, looked out at the city. Tell him I'm done being quiet. Tell him the next time he wants to humiliate me, he should remember that I'm not alone anymore. And tell him that Adrian Voss doesn't make threats. He makes moves. And tonight was just the first one. She hung up. Her hands were shaking now. Adrenaline, fear, something else she couldn't name. The phone rang again immediately. Different number. This time, she let it go to voicemail. Then she did something she hadn't allowed herself to do in 3 years. She went to her closet, pulled out the box she kept on the top shelf, and opened it. Inside, notebooks. Dozens of them. Her original recipes. Her sketches. Her dreams in handwritten ink. The menu for Ember was in there. All of it. Every dish she'd created. Every technique she'd refined. Every vision of what that restaurant could become. She'd kept them hidden, locked away, because looking at them hurt too much. Now she flipped through the pages with clinical precision, reading, remembering, cataloging exactly what Daniel had stolen. Ember's signature dish, the one that won him the Michelin star, was on page 47. Korean short rib with gochujang glaze, crispy rice cakes, and pickled daikon. She'd spent 6 months perfecting the balance. Daniel had served it opening night and told the press it was inspired by his travels through Seoul. He'd never been to Seoul. Page 62. The dessert that food critics called transcendent. Miso caramel panna cotta with black sesame tuile. Her grandmother's recipe, updated with French technique. Daniel told people his mother taught it to him. His mother couldn't cook. On and on. Every dish. Every lie. Aria read until her eyes burned, until the anger in her chest felt like something solid and immovable. Then she closed the notebook and made a decision. If Adrian Voss wanted to help her fight back, fine. She'd let him. She'd use his resources, his connections, his terrifying calm. But this wasn't his war to win. It was hers. And before this was over, Daniel Cross was going to know exactly what it felt like to lose everything while watching someone else take credit for destroying him. She didn't sleep. At 4 a.m., she gave up and started researching Adrian Voss. The internet was full of him. Forbes profiles, business acquisitions, photos at charity galas with women who looked like they'd been designed in laboratories. But the personal details, those were scarce. Born in London. Moved to the States at 15, built his first company at 23. Some kind of tech startup that he sold for enough money to fund the next 10 ventures. Now he owned everything from real estate to restaurants to a private security firm that governments apparently hired when things got complicated. But there were gaps, years where he disappeared from public record, rumors about connections to people who didn't appear in Forbes. One article from an investigative journalist called him the Invisible Empire. It detailed how Voss Industries controlled massive infrastructure projects through layers of shell companies, how politicians who crossed him found their careers mysteriously derailed, how competitors who played dirty discovered that Adrian Voss played dirtier and never got caught. The article ended with a warning. Adrian Voss doesn't collect companies. He collects leverage. And once he has it, you're never really free. Aria closed her laptop. She should have been terrified. But all she felt was a dark, bitter satisfaction, because if Daniel wanted to fight dirty, she'd just found someone who'd perfected it into an art form. At 9:15 a.m., she stood in front of her mirror and assessed the damage. Dark circles under her eyes, hair that needed washing, the same black dress from last night because her professional wardrobe consisted of exactly 3 outfits. She looked exhausted, fragile, exactly like someone who'd been beaten down by the world. Good. Let Adrian see what Daniel's victory had cost. Let him understand why she was willing to make deals with dangerous men. She grabbed her bag and headed for the subway. The Voss building was impossible to miss. 60 stories of dark glass and steel that reflected the morning sun like a blade. The lobby was all marble and minimalism, with security that looked like they moonlighted for alphabet agencies. Aria Bennett, she told the desk. I have a 10 a.m. with Adrian Voss. The receptionist's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or pity. Top floor. Elevator on the right. You're expected. The elevator was glass-walled. Aria watched the city drop away beneath her as she rose through the building. By the time she reached the 60th floor, her stomach was in knots. The doors opened onto an office that looked more like a luxury penthouse. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Modern art that probably cost more than her parents' house. A view that made the entire city look like a toy. And Adrian standing by the window with his back to her. You came, he said without turning around. You didn't think I would? I thought you might run. He turned. He'd lost the tuxedo, traded it for a charcoal suit that fit like a threat. Most people do. After they meet me. After they realize what I am. And what are you? He smiled. Dangerous. Useful. Depending on where you're standing. Which am I? Dangerous or useful? Both. He crossed to a desk, picked up a folder, and held it out. Read this. Then decide if you still want my help. Aria took the folder, opened it. The first page was a detailed breakdown of Ember's finances, revenue, expenses, profit margins. The restaurant was successful. She'd known that. But seeing the numbers made her throat tight. Second page. Daniel's investor agreements. He'd been taking on silent partners, lots of them, leveraging Ember's success to fund expansion. Third page. Her recipes, copyrighted under Daniel's name. She looked up. How did you get this? I told you, I do my homework. Adrian leaned against his desk, arms crossed. Keep reading. Page 4 was a list of Daniel's debts. Apparently the expansion wasn't going well. 2 of his investors wanted out. He owed 7 figures to renovation contractors. Page 5. A timeline of every time Daniel had publicly taken credit for her work. Every interview where he'd lied. Every awards dinner where he'd thanked everyone except her. The last page was a single sentence. He's been planning to sell Ember for 6 months. Once the deal closes, he walks away with everything. Again. Aria's vision blurred. He's going to sell? To the Donovan Group, massive hospitality corporation. They buy successful restaurants, strip out the soul, and franchise them into oblivion. Adrian's voice was clinical. Daniel will make approximately $40 million. The recipes you created will be mass-produced. Your signature dish will be served at airport terminals by people who can barely boil water. The folder slipped from her hands. Why are you telling me this? Because I can stop it. Adrian pushed off the desk. I can buy Ember before the Donovan deal closes. I can put you back in that kitchen. I can make sure the world knows exactly who built that restaurant. Why would you do that? Because I need something from you. There it was. The catch. What? Adrian walked to the window, stood looking out at the city he apparently owned. 3 years ago, my brother died. Car accident. Or that's what the investigation concluded. His voice never changed. Still calm, still controlled. I didn't believe it. So I hired investigators, spent 2 years tracking every detail, and I found something interesting. He turned. The accident wasn't an accident. The brakes were tampered with. And the person who ordered it? He has connections to the same investors backing Daniel's expansion. Aria's blood went cold. You think Daniel's a thief and a coward, but a murderer? No. Adrian's eyes were like steel. But the people he's in business with? They don't have his moral limitations. And they're planning something bigger, something that involves several restaurants, including Ember. Something that, if my information is correct, will destroy a lot of lives. What does this have to do with me? I need someone inside. Someone they won't suspect. Someone who knows Daniel, knows the restaurant, knows how he operates. He paused. Someone who has every reason to want him destroyed. Understanding hit like cold water. You want me to spy for you. I want you to work for me, officially, as a consultant for Voss Industries. You'll help me acquire Ember, and while you do, you'll gather information, evidence, proof. And if I say no, then I'll find another way. It'll take longer, be messier, but I'll still win. He met her eyes. The question is whether you want to be part of it, whether you want justice or just revenge. What's the difference? Revenge is personal, justice is permanent. Adrian crossed to her, stopped close enough that she had to tilt her head back to meet his gaze. Revenge would be taking Ember from Daniel. Justice is making sure everyone knows what he did, making sure he can never do it again, to you or anyone else. Aria's heart hammered against her ribs. If I do this, if I help you, what do I get? Everything. Your name, your restaurant, your future. He paused, and the satisfaction of watching Daniel Cross lose everything he stole in public, permanently. It was too much, too fast, too... There's something else, Adrian said quietly. Something you need to know before you decide. What? Your parents' car accident, 5 years ago. The world stopped. Don't! Her voice cracked. Don't you dare! It wasn't an accident either. The floor dropped out. Aria couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Her parents, the crash that killed them both, the investigation that found driver error, the grief that had consumed her for months. You're lying. I wish I was. Adrian's expression softened, just barely. The same people, the same method. Your parents were investigating financial fraud at a restaurant they owned. They found evidence, threatened to go public, and 3 days later they were dead. No. I have proof, forensic reports that were buried, witness statements that disappeared, all of it pointing to the same conclusion. He held her gaze. Your parents were murdered, and the people who did it are the same ones backing Daniel's expansion. Aria's legs gave out. She would have fallen, but Adrian caught her, his hand steady on her arms, his voice low and certain. I can't bring them back, Aria, but I can make sure the people who killed them pay. I can make sure their deaths meant something. That's why I need you, not just to destroy Daniel, but to finish what your parents started. She looked up at him, this man she'd met once before tonight. This stranger who'd just upended her entire world. How long have you known? 6 months, since my investigators found the connection. And you waited until now to tell me? I needed to be sure. I needed evidence that would hold up. And I needed you to be ready. His hands tightened on her arms. Are you? Was she ready? To believe her parents' deaths weren't random. To accept that her entire life had been shaped by murder disguised as tragedy. To walk into a war against people who killed anyone who threatened them. No, but she was done running. What do you need me to do? Adrian smiled. It was cold and perfect and absolutely terrifying. First, you're going to accept a position as senior culinary consultant for Voss Industries, salary that'll make Daniel's head spin, benefits that include legal representation. You'll need it when he tries to sue. And second, you're going to help me acquire Ember. We'll outbid the Donovan Group, and when we do, you'll walk back into that kitchen as head chef, not employee, partner. He'll never sell to you. He won't have a choice, not once we're done. Aria pulled away from his grip, walked to the window, looked out at the city spread beneath her. Somewhere down there, Daniel was probably already working on his next move, already calling lawyers and investors and anyone who might help him recover from last night's humiliation. And somewhere down there, the people who'd killed her parents were still free, still powerful, still destroying lives. She thought about her mother's smile, her father's laugh, the dreams they'd had for the small restaurant they'd poured their hearts into. She thought about 3 years of silence, of hiding, of letting Daniel win because fighting back seemed impossible. She thought about that kiss last night, about the way Adrian had looked at her like she mattered, like she was worth claiming in front of the world. And she made her choice. I want everything in writing, the salary, the partnership, all of it. Of course. And I want your word that when this is over, Daniel doesn't just lose. He understands exactly what he took from me, what it cost. You have it. She turned to face him. Then I'm in. Adrian's smile widened. Good, because tomorrow morning we're having breakfast with Daniel's investors, and you're going to tell them exactly why Ember's expansion is built on fraud. They'll never believe me. They will. Because I'll have documented proof of every recipe he stole, every lie he told, every cut corner and every investor he's been misleading. Adrian crossed to his desk, pulled out another folder. You're not walking into that meeting empty-handed, Aria. You're walking in armed. She took the folder. It was heavy. How long have you been planning this? Since the night I first saw you working in my company's kitchen, looking like someone who'd forgotten they were supposed to be alive. His gray eyes held hers. I recognized that look. I wore it for 2 years after my brother died, and I decided then that if I ever got the chance, I'd help you remember how to fight back. Something in Aria's chest cracked open. You don't even know me. I know enough. He stepped closer. I know you're brilliant. I know you're stronger than you think, and I know that together we're going to burn down everything that's been built on lies. Why? Why what? Why do you care? Why help me? Why? She gestured at the folders, the office, the impossible promise of justice. Why any of this? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something she hadn't heard before, something raw. Because some people deserve to burn, and some people deserve to watch. Then he turned away, and the moment broke. Go home. Read everything in that folder. Tomorrow at 8 a.m., we meet the investors. Dress like you're worth $40 million, because by the time we're done, you will be. Aria clutched the folder to her chest. Adrian? Yes? That kiss last night, was it part of the plan? He looked at her, really looked, and for just a second she saw past the calculated calm to something else, something dangerous and entirely human. No, he said quietly. That was improvisation. Was it real? His smile was sharp. Does it matter? Yes. Then ask me again when this is over. When you're standing in your restaurant with your name above the door and Daniel Cross is nothing but a cautionary tale. He paused. Ask me then if it was real. Aria's throat tightened. She nodded once. Then she left. The elevator ride down felt different, like she was descending into a new version of herself, someone who didn't hide, someone who fought back. Her phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. I know what you're planning. Stop now, or your sister pays the price. Aria's blood froze. Her sister, Maya, 23 and living across the country in Seattle, working as a graphic designer completely removed from Aria's disasters. She called immediately, straight to voicemail. Tried again. Nothing. Her hand shook as she texted, Maya, call me now. The elevator reached the lobby. Aria ran. Outside, the city pressed in. Too many people. Too much noise. She couldn't breathe. Another text. Check your email. You have 24 hours. The email contained a photo. Maya, tied to a chair in what looked like a warehouse, alive but terrified, and a message. Tomorrow's meeting doesn't happen, or she dies. Your choice. Aria's vision went white. She called Adrian. He answered on the first ring. They took my sister. I know. I'm sending a car. Don't move. How do you? Because I've been expecting this. Stay where you are. The line went dead. 3 minutes later, a black car pulled up. The driver didn't speak, just opened the door. Aria got in. They drove back to the Voss building, but instead of the lobby, they went underground. Private garage. Service elevator. Adrian was waiting. Tell me everything, he said. She showed him the text, the photo. His expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went absolutely cold. They're escalating faster than I expected. You knew this would happen? I knew they'd make a move. I didn't know when. He pulled out his phone, made a call. I need the Seattle team active. Send me the location data. He listened. Good. Go now. He hung up. What's happening? I have people in Seattle. They'll find her. How can you? Because I've been tracking Daniel's investors for 2 years. I know who they are, where they operate, who they use for dirty work. He met her eyes. Maya's going to be fine, but we need to make a decision. What decision? We can back off. Cancel tomorrow's meeting. Let them think they've won. He paused. Or we call their bluff. Walk into that meeting anyway. Force their hand. They'll kill her. No, they won't. Adrian's voice was absolute. Because the moment they do, they lose their leverage. And these people don't make moves without leverage. You can't know that. I can, because I've studied them. I know how they think, how they operate. He stepped closer. Trust me, Aria. Let me handle this. She's my sister. I know, which is why I'm not asking you to sit still. I'm asking you to fight back smarter. He handed her his phone. Watch. The screen showed a live video feed. Maya, in the warehouse, but not alone anymore. Men in tactical gear were moving through the space, silent, efficient, professional. Aria watched them reach Maya, cut her bonds, lead her out. The whole operation took 90 seconds. I told you. I've been tracking them. I knew where they'd take her. I had people in position before they even made contact. Adrian took back his phone. She's safe. She'll be on a flight to a secure location within the hour. And the people who took her, they're about to learn what happens when they threaten what's mine. I'm not yours. No. His smile was cold. But you're under my protection now, which means anyone who hurts you answers to me, and I don't answer back with threats. Another call. He answered, listened, then said, Do it. He hung up and looked at Aria. It's done. The people who took Maya are in custody. Local police on charges I'm sure will stick. They won't talk. They're professionals, but they're out of play. Just like that? Just like that. Aria sank into the nearest chair. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. This is insane. This is war. Adrian crouched in front of her. And you just learned the first rule. They'll use anything, anyone, whatever leverage they can find, which means from now on, everyone you care about needs protection. I can't live like this. You can. You will. Because the alternative is going back to hiding. And we both know you're done with that. He was right. She hated that he was right. Tomorrow, she said quietly. The meeting still happens? Only if you want it to. I want it to. She looked up at him. I want them to know they can't scare me into silence anymore. I want them to understand that taking my sister was the last mistake they make. Pride flickered across Adrian's face. Good. Then we go to war properly. He stood, offered his hand. But first, you're staying here tonight. Guest suite, full security, no arguments. I need to talk to Maya. You will. Once she's secure. Until then, trust that my people are better at this than Daniel's people are at threatening. Aria took his hand, let him pull her to her feet. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me yet. His grip tightened on her hand. Tomorrow, we destroy them. All of them. And it's going to get worse before it gets better. I know. Do you? He searched her face. Because once we start this, there's no going back. Once we expose what they've done, they'll come after you with everything. Legal, illegal, everything in between. I don't care. You should, but I don't. Aria pulled her hand free. They killed my parents. They took my sister. They destroyed my life and made me watch while Daniel got rich off my work. I'm done caring about consequences. Adrian smiled. It was sharp and approving and absolutely terrifying. Then welcome to the war, Aria Bennett. Let's go make sure they regret every choice that led them here. He led her to the elevator, to the guest suite, to a room with more security than most banks. And Aria stood at the window, looking out at the city that had tried to erase her, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Dangerous, brutal, absolutely unforgiving hope. Tomorrow, she was walking into that meeting. Tomorrow, she was telling the truth about Daniel's fraud, her parents' murder, and everything in between. Tomorrow, she was finally fighting back. And if they wanted to come after her, let them try. She had Adrian Voss on her side now, and that man didn't lose. The guest suite had floor-to-ceiling windows that made Aria feel like she was floating above the city. Expensive furniture, art that probably cost more than her annual salary, a bathroom with a shower that had settings she didn't understand. She didn't touch any of it. Instead, she sat on the edge of the bed with her phone pressed to her ear, waiting for Maya to pick up. 4 rings, 5. Then her sister's voice, shaky but alive. Aria! The relief nearly knocked her sideways. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? I'm fine. Where are you? What's happening? Maya's voice cracked. These people showed up at my apartment. They had guns, Aria. Real guns. And then these other people came and there was... I don't even know what to call it. It was like a movie. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Why are you apologizing? You didn't... Maya stopped. This has something to do with Daniel, doesn't it? Aria closed her eyes. It's complicated. Then uncomplicate it. Because I just got kidnapped and rescued in the same hour, and I think I deserve an explanation. She deserved more than that. She deserved a sister who hadn't dragged her into a war she didn't sign up for. I can't explain everything right now, but I promise you're safe. The people protecting you work for someone I trust. You trust someone who has a private army? I don't have a choice. Maya was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. Are you in trouble? No, maybe. I don't know. Aria laughed, but it came out wrong. I'm trying to fix something that should have been fixed a long time ago, and some people don't want me to. People who kidnap graphic designers to make a point? Yeah. Jesus, Aria. Maya exhaled hard. What did you get yourself into? Something I should have gotten into 3 years ago. Another silence. Then, does this have to do with Mom and Dad? Aria's throat closed. Why would you ask that? Because you sound like you did right after the accident. Like you're barely holding it together but pretending you're fine. Maya paused. And because the guy who's apparently in charge of my protection mentioned their names, said something about making sure I understood the stakes. Adrian. Of course he'd told her. Not everything, probably. Just enough to make sure Maya cooperated. Their accident wasn't an accident, Aria said quietly. The words hung in the air like smoke. What? Someone killed them, made it look like driver error, and the people who did it, they're the same ones who just tried to use you to stop me from exposing them. Maya's breath hitched. You're serious. I wish I wasn't. How long have you known? About 12 hours. And you're just, what, going after them? By yourself? Not by myself, I have help. The guy with the private army. His name is Adrian Voss, and yes, Maya laughed. It sounded a little hysterical. My sister is working with some kind of billionaire vigilante to avenge our parents' murder. This is actually happening. I know it sounds insane. It sounds like a terrible movie, but I believe you. Maya's voice steadied. Because you wouldn't lie about this. You wouldn't put me in danger unless it was real. Aria's eyes burned. I'm sorry. I should have warned you. Should have... Stop. You didn't know they'd come after me. And now I'm safe. So tell me what you need. I need you to stay where you are. Let Adrian's people keep you protected until this is over. How long will that take? I don't know. Days. Maybe weeks. And then what? We just go back to normal? Pretend none of this happened? I don't know, and Aria admitted. I haven't thought that far ahead. Well, start thinking. Because I'm not spending the rest of my life looking over my shoulder. Maya's tone hardened. You finish this, Aria. Whatever it takes. You make sure the people who killed Mom and Dad pay for it. I will. Promise me. I promise. They talked for a few more minutes. Small things. Maya's apartment, her job, the weather in Seattle. Normal conversation that felt surreal given the circumstances. When they finally hung up, Aria sat in the dark and let herself feel it. All of it. The fear. The rage. The grief she'd been burying for 5 years. Her parents hadn't died in an accident. They'd been murdered. And she'd spent 5 years believing it was random, meaningless, just bad luck and bad timing. But it wasn't random. It was calculated. Someone had looked at her parents, good people who'd worked hard and loved deeply, and decided they were inconvenient, expendable. The fury that rose in her chest was so intense it almost felt like joy. Tomorrow, she was walking into that meeting. Tomorrow, she was telling the truth. And if Daniel's investors wanted to threaten her, if they wanted to play games, she'd show them exactly what happened when you took everything from someone and left them with nothing to lose. A knock at the door pulled her back. Adrian stood in the hallway, still wearing the suit from earlier. He looked tired. Not physically. Men like him probably didn't get physically tired, but something in his eyes suggested he'd been fighting battles all night. Maya's secure, say, he said. My people have her in a safe house outside Portland. Full security detail. She'll stay there until this is over. Thank you. Don't thank me. This is my fault. I should have anticipated they'd go after her. How could you have known? Because it's what I would have done. He leaned against the doorframe. When you're trying to control someone, you find their pressure points. Family is always the easiest target. That's a depressing worldview. It's an accurate one. He studied her face. You should sleep. Tomorrow's going to be brutal. I can't sleep. Then read the files. Know every detail. Because when we walk into that conference room, you need to be bulletproof. I will be. Will you? He pushed off the doorframe, stepped into the room. Because there's a difference between wanting revenge and being ready to execute it. Tomorrow, you're going to look Daniel in the eye and destroy him. Professionally, publicly, permanently. Are you ready for that? Yes? Are you ready for what comes after? The press, the attention, the people who'll call you bitter and vindictive and every other word they use to discredit women who refuse to stay quiet? Aria stood, met his gaze head on. I've been called worse by people who mattered more. Something shifted in Adrian's expression. Approval, maybe, or recognition. Good. Then get some rest. We leave at 7. He turned to go. Adrian? Yes? Why are you really helping me? And don't tell me it's about your brother. There's something else. He was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried something raw, something real. Because 3 years ago, I watched you walk into that kitchen for the first time. You looked like someone who'd been broken so thoroughly they'd forgotten they used to be whole. And I recognized that look because I saw it in the mirror every day after my brother died. He met her eyes. I couldn't save him, but maybe I can help you save yourself. The honesty hit harder than any threat. I'm not a charity case. I know, you're a weapon, and tomorrow I'm going to help you remember how to fire. Then he left. Aria stood alone in the expensive room and felt something shift inside her, something sharp and dangerous and entirely necessary. She wasn't Aria Bennett, failed chef and Daniel Cross's discarded fiancée, anymore. She was something else now, something that bit back. She opened the folder Adrian had given her and started reading. By the time dawn broke over the city, she'd memorized every detail, every stolen recipe, every falsified document, every lie Daniel had built his empire on, and she was ready. The conference room was all glass and steel, designed to make people feel exposed. 8 investors sat around a table that probably cost more than a car. Daniel occupied the head position, looking confident in a navy suit that screamed money. He didn't see them coming. Adrian walked in first, Aria half a step behind. She'd borrowed a suit from somewhere, probably had it custom-made overnight because that's apparently what billionaires did, and it fit perfectly. Charcoal gray, expensive, the kind of armor that made people take you seriously. Daniel's face went white when he saw her. What is she doing here? Ms. Bennett is my consultant. Adrian said smoothly, taking a seat. I thought it was appropriate to have someone with actual culinary expertise present for this discussion. This is a private meeting. That I arranged. Adrian smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. When you're asking me to invest $40 million, I get to decide who attends. Sit down, Daniel. The use of his first name, casual, dismissive, made Daniel's jaw tighten, but he sat. The investors looked between them like spectators at a tennis match. Gentlemen, Adrian began, pulling out a tablet. Thank you for meeting on short notice. I wanted to discuss the Ember acquisition before the Donovan deal closes. We've already committed to Donovan, one of the investors said. Harrison Wu, real estate mogul. According to Adrian's notes, he had political aspirations and a gambling problem. Committed isn't closed, and I'm prepared to offer $10 million more than their current bid. That got their attention. Daniel leaned forward. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about business, Daniel. You should know that. Adrian swiped the tablet, and the wall screen lit up. However, before we discuss numbers, I think we should address some concerns about Ember's foundation. What concerns? Another investor, Victoria Chen, venture capitalist with a reputation for aggressive negotiations. Intellectual property concerns, specifically the origin of Ember's signature dishes. Daniel's hands clenched on the table. This is ridiculous. Is it? Adrian nodded to Aria. Ms. Bennett, would you mind explaining? This was it. The moment she'd been preparing for. Aria stood. Her hands were steady. Her voice was clear. 3 years ago, I developed the entire menu for Ember. Every dish, every technique, every flavor profile. Daniel and I were engaged at the time, and we were building the restaurant together. Or so I thought. This is ancient history, Daniel cut in. We were partners. The restaurant was a joint effort. No, it wasn't. Aria turned to the investors. I have documentation. Original recipe notebooks with dates. Email chains showing me developing each dish. Even video footage from the development kitchen, which I'm happy to provide. She pulled out her own tablet, courtesy of Adrian's team, and displayed a scan of her original notebooks. Here's the Korean short rib dish that won Ember its Michelin star, developed April 2019, 6 months before the restaurant opened. You can see my handwriting, my notes, my technique adjustments. The investors leaned in. And here's Daniel serving that exact dish at opening night, claiming he developed it during his travels through Seoul. Except he's never been to Seoul. I have his passport records to prove it. Daniel's face flushed. You can't just... Here's the miso caramel panna cotta, based on my grandmother's recipe. Daniel told Food and Wine his mother taught it to him. His mother died when he was 6. She never cooked professionally. Aria clicked through image after image, recipe after recipe, lie after lie. The room had gone silent. Every signature dish at Ember came from my notebooks, my development, my work. And when Daniel ended our engagement 2 weeks before opening, he kept everything, the recipes, the concept, the name. He copyrighted them under his name while I was still processing the breakup. These are serious accusations, Victoria Chen said slowly. Do you have proof of copyright fraud? Better. I have the original development timeline. Every recipe is dated and documented. And I have witnesses, former kitchen staff, who will testify that I developed these dishes, not Daniel. She looked directly at Daniel. His expression had gone from confident to panicked. I signed the business over to you because I trusted you, she said quietly. Because I loved you. And you used that trust to steal everything I'd built. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. Aria's voice hardened. You took my work, put your name on it, and built an empire on my recipes while I worked catering jobs to pay rent. Harrison Wu cleared his throat. Mr. Cross, is this true? We were partners. The development process was collaborative. Show them your notebooks, Aria challenged. Your development notes, your recipe testing documentation. Daniel's silence was damning. You can't, because they don't exist, because you didn't develop anything. You just learned to copy my work well enough to fool people who didn't know better. Victoria Chen looked at Adrian. You verified this? Every word. I have forensic analysis of the notebooks, expert testimony on the recipes, even the original business registration document showing Ms. Bennett as primary developer. He pulled up another file. I also have documentation of Mr. Cross hiring 3 separate consulting firms over the past 2 years, all tasked with developing new menu items because he couldn't replicate Miss Bennett's original success. Daniel stood abruptly. This is harassment. I'm calling my lawyer. Sit down. Adrian's voice cut like a blade. Or I'll show them the rest. What rest? The financial irregularities. The investor funds you've been misappropriating. The expansion projects that are 3 months behind and $2 million over budget. Adrian's smile was cold. Did you really think I'd make an offer without full due diligence? Daniel sat. He looked like he might be sick. Harrison Wu exchanged glances with the other investors. Mr. Voss, what exactly are you proposing? Simple. I acquire Ember. Ms. Bennett becomes head chef and partner. Mr. Cross receives fair compensation for his management role, significantly less than $40 million given the fraud involved, and signs a legally binding agreement never to claim credit for her work again. That's insane, Mutz, Daniel said. I built that restaurant. You managed it, Aria corrected. There's a difference. You're good at business, Daniel, at networking and marketing and making people believe your version of events. But you're not a chef. You never were. The truth of it hung in the air. Victoria Chen tapped her pen against the table. If what you're saying is true, if Mr. Cross committed intellectual property fraud, why didn't you pursue legal action 3 years ago? Because his family's lawyers buried me in paperwork I couldn't afford to fight. Because I was grief-stricken and broke and alone. Aria's voice stayed level. But I'm not alone anymore. And I'm not letting him get away with it again. She turned to Daniel. You thought you could humiliate me at the gala. Thought you could make me disappear one more time. But all you did was remind me why I started cooking in the first place. Not for money or fame, for the love of it, for the art. This is touching, Daniel said bitterly. But it's also pointless. These investors aren't going to side with you over me. Actually, Harrison Wu interrupted, I think we need to discuss this privately. Mr. Voss, miss. Bennett, would you give us the room? Adrian stood. Of course. Take your time. He and Aria walked out together. The hallway was empty and quiet. That went well, Adrian said. Aria's hands were shaking now. Adrenaline crash. I can't tell if you're serious. I am. You were perfect, controlled, factual, everything you needed to be. He looked like he wanted to kill me. Good. Fear is a useful emotion. It makes people sloppy. Adrian checked his watch. They'll deliberate for 20 minutes, maybe 30. Then they'll accept my offer because Daniel's fraud makes him a liability they can't afford. You sound very confident. I am. I've been planning this for 6 months. He looked at her. How do you feel? Aria thought about it. Terrified, relieved, angry, powerful. That's the right mix. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowned. Excuse me, I need to take this. He walked down the hall, speaking in low tones. Aria leaned against the wall and tried to process what just happened. She'd just exposed Daniel in front of his investors, just reclaimed her work in the most public way possible. She should have felt victorious. Instead, she felt hollow. Because this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. And she knew, had known since Adrian first explained the stakes, that Daniel's investors weren't going to just accept defeat. They were going to fight back. Adrian returned, his expression grim. We have a problem. What kind of problem? The kind where Daniel's investors just made a call to someone very dangerous, someone who doesn't like losing. Who? Marcus Vance. He runs the Donovan Group, and according to my sources, he's also the man who ordered your parents' deaths. The hallway tilted. What? Your parents were investigating financial fraud at a restaurant they owned. That restaurant was one of Donovan's shell companies. They found evidence of money laundering, threatened to expose it, and 3 days later, they were dead. Aria couldn't breathe. You knew this. You've known... I suspected. I didn't have proof until this morning. My investigators just confirmed it. Adrian's voice was carefully controlled. Marcus Vance has been using restaurant acquisitions to launder money for years. Ember was supposed to be his next target. That's why he made the offer to Daniel. That's why he's so invested in making sure this deal closes. And now we've threatened it. Yes. So what happens now? Adrian's phone buzzed again. He answered, listened, and his expression went cold. Understood. Lock it down. He hung up and looked at Aria. Now we move to phase 2, which is making sure Marcus Vance understands that coming after you was the biggest mistake of his life. Before she could respond, the conference room door opened. Harrison Wu stepped out. Mr. Voss, we'd like to continue the discussion, but we need certain assurances. You'll have them. But first, I need you to understand something. Adrian's tone was pleasant, deadly. The man you're doing business with, Marcus Vance, is under federal investigation for money laundering. I have documentation, testimony, everything the FBI needs to build a case. Wu's face went pale. That's true. And if you continue pursuing the Donovan deal, you'll be implicated. All of you. Adrian smiled. Of course. If you accept my offer instead, I'm happy to provide immunity. I have excellent relationships with federal prosecutors. The threat was clear. Cooperate or burn. Wu swallowed hard. I need to discuss this with the others. By all means, but decide quickly. My offer expires at noon. Wu disappeared back into the conference room. Aria stared at Adrian. You're blackmailing them. I'm providing them with information they need to make an informed decision. What they do with it is up to them. That's blackmail. That's business. He checked his watch again. They'll accept. They don't have a choice. And if they don't, then I release the information to the FBI anyway, and they all go down with Vance. But they're smart enough to avoid that outcome. 10 minutes later, the door opened again. This time, all the investors filed out. Victoria Chen spoke first. We accept your offer, Mr. Voss, pending due diligence and final contract negotiations. Excellent. My lawyers will have papers ready by end of day. And Mr. Cross? Harrison Wu asked. Will be removed as primary owner. He'll retain a small percentage as compensation for his management role. The rest transfers to Voss Industries and Ms. Bennett. Daniel appeared in the doorway. He looked destroyed. You can't do this. I can. I am. Adrian's tone was final. You have two choices, Daniel. Accept the terms. Or refuse and face federal charges for intellectual property fraud. Your call. Daniel's hands clenched. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Aria stepped forward. You don't get to win this time. You don't get to walk away with everything while I disappear. I'm taking back what's mine, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. Daniel looked at her with something like hatred. You think you've won? You think Adrian Voss is your friend? He doesn't have friends. He has assets. And the moment you're not useful anymore, he'll discard you just like I did. The words hit harder than they should have. But Aria smiled anyway. Maybe. But at least he's honest about what he is. You pretended to love me while you stole my life, so yeah, I'll take honest manipulation over your lies any day. Daniel's jaw worked, but he had nothing left to say. He turned and walked away. Aria watched him go and felt something break loose in her chest. Relief. Vindication. The strange, bitter satisfaction of finally fighting back. Adrian touched her elbow. We should leave, before Vance's people realize what just happened. Where are we going? Somewhere safe, and then we prepare for the next phase. Which is? Taking down Marcus Vance, permanently. They left the building through a private exit. The car was waiting. As they pulled into traffic, Aria stared out the window at the city passing by. I should feel better, she said quietly. I just got Ember back, just destroyed Daniel's career, but I don't feel better. I feel empty, Adrian supplied. That's normal. Revenge doesn't fill the holes people leave. It just stops them from getting bigger. Then what's the point? The point is that you're not a victim anymore. You're not hiding. You're not letting other people write your story. He looked at her. The point is that tomorrow you walk into that kitchen as head chef, as owner, and you build something better than what Daniel stole. And Vance? We handle him separately, carefully, because he's more dangerous than Daniel ever was. How dangerous? Dangerous enough that I've already moved Maya to a secondary location. Dangerous enough that you're staying under my protection until this is over. Dangerous enough that... His phone rang. He He answered, and his expression changed. When? How many? He listened, his jaw tightening. Lock down the building. Full security protocols, I'm on my way. He hung up and leaned forward to the driver. Voss building, now. What happened? Aria asked. Marcus Vance just made his move. He sent people to my office, armed. They're demanding to speak with me. Armed? As in this just became a hostage situation. Adrian's voice was ice. Which means Marcus is more desperate than I thought. And desperate men make fatal mistakes. The car accelerated through traffic. Aria's heart hammered. What are we doing? Exactly what he expects. Walking into a trap. Adrian smiled. It was sharp and cold. And then we spring one of our own. Part 2. Lưu ý. Viết 6.000 đến 6.500 từ liên kết liền mạch với các phần trước trong câu chuyện, pha hội thoại tạo thành một câu chuyện liền mạch khi ghép lại. Mỗi phần liền mạch với phần trước không giới thiệu lại câu chuyện ở đầu phần mới. Liên kết các phần của câu chuyện một cách liền mạch. Sử dụng câu chuyện tiếp giữa các phần. Duy trì chủ đề, tránh ngắt quãng đột ngột, không sử dụng gạch đầu dòng hoặc tiêu đề phụ. Phong cách kể chuyện Mỹ, Hoa Kỳ, giống văn giàu cảm xúc. Kể theo ngôi thứ 3, giữ đồ kịch tính không Việt lan man, nhân vật không hoàn hảo, hội thoại tự nhiên, tránh ngôn ngữ văn chương sáo rơi và cụm từ AI điển hình. Viết như nhà văn chuyên nghiệp, không như AI cố gắng nghe sàng. Có yếu tố con người, cầm miêu tả quá mượt mà và hoàn hảo, kết thúc phần không giới thiệu phần sau. Lưu ý trả lời trong mục tin nhắn không nhảy sang document, chi dần bắt buộc, không được xuất hiện trong nội dung truyền. Đây là một câu chuyện điện ảnh hoàn toàn hư cấu được tạo ra chỉ nhằm mục đích giải trí. Không đề cập hay ngụ ý rằng nó dựa trên sự kiện có thật, người thật hoặc câu chuyện có thật. Không sử dụng các cụm từ như dựa trên một câu chuyện có thật. Theo ghi chép hoặc bất cứ điều gì tương tự, tất cả các nhân vật, địa điểm, tổ chức và sự kiện phải hoàn toàn hư cấu. Show to 1455. The Voss building looked different when you knew armed men were inside. The glass and steel that had seemed impressive yesterday now felt fragile, breakable, like everything else Aria had thought was solid. Adrian was on his phone the entire ride, speaking in clipped sentences that revealed nothing. When they pulled into the underground garage, he finally hung up and turned to her. Listen carefully. You're not coming up with me. The hell I'm not. Aria, they're doing this because of me, because we threatened their deal. I'm not hiding while you walk into whatever this is. His jaw tightened. This isn't about bravery. It's about strategy. Marcus wants me off balance, wants me making decisions based on emotion instead of logic. If you're up there, he has leverage. And if I'm down here, I'm useless. You're safe. That's not useless. The car stopped. Adrian's security team was already assembled. 6 men in dark suits, earpieces, the kind of stillness that came from military training. One of them approached. Sir, we have eyes on 4 hostiles, armed with handguns. They're holding 3 employees on the 60th floor. Demands are simple. They want to talk to you. Alone. Who are the employees? Parker from accounting, Stevens from legal, and your executive assistant. Adrian's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes went cold. Rachel. Yes, sir. Aria watched him process, watched him calculate. This was what he did, she realized, turned emotion into strategy, fear into advantage. What's the play? The security lead asked. Standard protocol. I go up. You maintain perimeter. If anything goes wrong, you extract the hostages, not me. Sir, that's an order. Adrian looked at Aria. You stay here, with Jenkins. He'll keep you safe. And if something happens to you, then Jenkins gets you out of the city, out of the country if necessary. There's a contingency plan. He knows it. This was insane. All of it. Yesterday, she'd been catering events. Now she was in an underground garage while a man she barely knew prepared to negotiate with armed criminals. Adrian, wait. He paused. Be careful. Something flickered across his face. Always am. Then he was gone, disappearing into the elevator with 2 of his security team. Aria stood next to Jenkins, a man who looked like he could bench press a car, and tried to breathe normally. He'll be fine, Jenkins said. His voice was surprisingly gentle for someone his size. Mr. Voss has been in worse situations. Worse than armed hostage takers? You'd be surprised. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You should have stayed out of this. Now people die because of you. Her blood went cold. She showed Jenkins. He read it, his expression hardening. Vance's people, trying to get in your head. Don't engage. But another text came through immediately. This one with a photo. The 60th floor. 3 people on their knees, and a man with a gun standing over them. Tell Adrian to back down. Or we start with the girl. Rachel. Adrian's assistant. She couldn't have been more than 25. Aria's hand shook. We have to do something. We are. We're letting Mr. Voss handle it. They're going to kill her. Not if they want to live through the next hour. Jenkins's tone was absolute. Mr. Voss doesn't negotiate from weakness, and he doesn't leave his people behind. Aria wanted to believe that, wanted to trust that Adrian had this under control, but she'd spent 3 years learning that powerful men didn't always keep their promises. The elevator doors opened on the 60th floor, and Adrian stepped out with his hands visible, empty, non-threatening, 4 men, just like his security had said. They looked professional, ex-military probably. The kind of people who did this for money, not ideology. The one in charge was maybe 40, with a scar running down his left cheek. Mr. Voss, thanks for joining us. Let them go. Not until we talk. We're talking now. Release my employees. Scar smiled. You're not really in a position to make demands. Neither are you. My building, my security, my city. Adrian's voice never rose, never wavered. You're trapped here. The moment you hurt anyone, you lose your only leverage. So let's skip the posturing and get to what Marcus actually wants. Mr. Vance wants you to withdraw your offer on Ember, wants you to stay out of his business. Tell Mr. Vance that ship sailed when he killed Aria Bennett's parents. The room went silent. Scar's expression shifted, just slightly. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. Because you were there 5 years ago. Helen and Robert Bennett. Car accident that wasn't an accident. Adrian pulled out his phone. I have footage. Traffic cameras that the police somehow missed. Shows your vehicle following theirs. Shows you forcing them off the road. You're lying. I don't lie. I collect evidence. Adrian's smile was cold. I also collect witnesses. The mechanic who inspected the Bennett's car? He's in protective custody, ready to testify that the brake lines were cut. The investigator who buried the report? He's talking to the FBI right now. Scar's grip tightened on his weapon. You think you're clever. Think you can threaten us into backing down. I don't think. I know. Because here's what happens next. You can shoot me. Shoot these people. And my security team will kill you before you reach the elevator. Or you can walk away, right now, before this becomes a murder charge instead of just kidnapping. Marcus won't let this go. Marcus doesn't have a choice. Because in approximately 10 minutes, federal agents are going to raid his office with warrants for money laundering, tax fraud, and 2 counts of murder. Adrian checked his watch. Actually, make that 8 minutes. You're bluffing. Call him. Ask him if the FBI just showed up. Scar hesitated, then pulled out his phone. Made a call. The conversation was brief. Scar's face went white. He says you're making a mistake. Says you don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A man who's about to spend the rest of his life in federal prison. Adrian gestured to the hostages. Last chance. Walk away or join him. The 4 men exchanged glances, calculating, weighing odds. Then Scar lowered his weapon. This isn't over. Yes, it is. Adrian's security team emerged from the stairwell, weapons drawn. Drop your guns. Hands behind your heads. Do it now. They complied. They were professionals, after all. They knew when they'd lost. Adrian crossed to Rachel, helped her to her feet. Are you okay? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I thought they were going to... I know. You're safe now. Get her out of here, he told his security. All of them, medical checks, counseling if they need it. The hostages were led away. Scar and his team were cuffed and escorted out by different security personnel. And Adrian stood alone in the center of his office, looking out at the city. Aria didn't remember getting in the elevator, didn't remember riding up 60 floors. But suddenly she was there, standing in the doorway, staring at him. "You're okay." He turned. "Did you doubt it?" "Yes, constantly, for the last 20 minutes. Something like amusement crossed his face. "I told you to stay in the garage. And I told you I wasn't hiding." She walked toward him. "Is it true about the FBI?" "Every word. I've been building a case against Marcus Vance for 2 years. Today just accelerated the timeline. Because of me. Because of justice. There's a difference." He pulled out his phone, showed her a news alert. Federal agents had raided Donovan Group headquarters. Marcus Vance was in custody. Aria read the headline twice. "It's over. The first battle is, the war continues." What does that mean? It means Marcus has lawyers, resources. He'll fight the charges. Could take years to put him away permanently. Adrian pocketed his phone. But his empire is crumbling. His shell companies are being seized. His associates are scrambling to make deals. He's done. And Daniel? Daniel's facing fraud charges. The investors pulled their support. Ember's expansion is canceled. By tomorrow, his name will be toxic in the industry. Everything she'd wanted, everything she'd fought for. So why did she still feel empty? "I should be celebrating," she said quietly. "But you're not." "I got justice. My parents' killer is in custody. Daniel's career is destroyed. I'm getting my restaurant back. This is what winning looks like, right?" Adrian studied her face. Winning looks different for everyone. For some people, it's destroying their enemies. For others, it's building something better from the ashes. "What does it look like for you?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Honestly, I'm still figuring that out." The vulnerability surprised her. Adrian Voss didn't do vulnerable, didn't show weakness. But maybe he was as tired as she was. "What happens now?" Aria asked. "Now. We finalize the Ember acquisition, get you back in that kitchen, start rebuilding everything Daniel destroyed." "And us?" The question hung between them. "What about us?" That kiss at the gala. Was it part of the plan, or wasn't it? Adrian's expression softened, just slightly. "I told you, ask me that when this is over." "It is over. Marcus is in custody. Daniel's finished, so I'm asking." He crossed the space between them, stopped close enough that she could see the gray flecks in his eyes, close enough to feel the heat coming off him. "No. It wasn't part of the plan." "Then why did you do it?" "Because for 3 years, I've watched you disappear. Watched you make yourself small and quiet and invisible. And at that gala, when Daniel tried to humiliate you one more time, I couldn't stand it anymore." His hand came up, fingers brushing her jaw. "I kissed you because I wanted to remind you what it felt like to matter, to be claimed instead of discarded. That's a terrible reason. I know. You used me." "I did. I'm not going to apologize for it." "Good, because I'd hate you if you did." She leaned into his touch. "I'm not fragile. I don't need saving." "I know that too." "Then what do you need?" Adrian's thumb traced her lower lip. "Honestly, I have no idea. I've spent 2 years focused on revenge, on destroying the people who killed my brother. I didn't plan for what comes after. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we've both been so focused on fighting back that we forgot what we're fighting for." "What are you fighting for, Aria?" She thought about it, really thought. "I want my restaurant back. But not because Daniel took it. Because I actually love cooking. I love creating something beautiful and temporary and perfect for just one moment." She met his eyes. "I want to build something that matters, not as revenge, just as proof that I can." "Then do it." "Just like that?" "Just like that. Take Ember. Make it yours. Build the restaurant you always dreamed of." He stepped back, breaking the contact. "I'll handle the business side, the investors, the legal battles. You focus on the food." It sounded simple. It probably wasn't. "And what about you? What do you want?" Adrian walked back to the window, stared out at the city he controlled. "I want my brother back, but I can't have that. So I settle for making sure the people who killed him pay for it. That's not a future. That's just more revenge." "Maybe that's all I have." Aria crossed to him. stood beside him at the window. Or maybe you're as scared as I am, scared that if we stop fighting, we'll have to figure out who we are without the anger. He laughed. It sounded broken. When did you get so perceptive? When I spent 3 years watching my own life from the outside. You learn things about people when you're invisible. They stood in silence for a while. The city stretched out below them. Millions of lives, millions of stories. I'm going to Ember tomorrow, Aria said finally. Going to walk into that kitchen for the first time in 3 years, and I'm terrified. Why? Because what if I'm not good enough anymore? What if I lost whatever made me special? You didn't. You can't know that. I can. Because talent doesn't disappear. It just gets buried under fear and grief and all the other garbage life throws at you. Adrian turned to face her. You're still the woman who is going to revolutionize American cuisine. You just forgot for a while. And what if I fail? Then you fail and you try again. That's how this works. Easy for you to say. You don't fail. I fail constantly. I just don't quit. He smiled. It looked almost real. Tomorrow, you walk into that kitchen. You start cooking, and you remember why you fell in love with this in the first place. Everything else is just noise. Aria wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that it could be that simple, but she'd spent too long learning that nothing was ever simple. Her phone buzzed. A text from Maya. Just saw the news about Marcus Vance. Is it true? Is he really in custody? She replied quickly. Yes. It's over. Are you okay? Getting there. I'm proud of you. Mom and Dad would be too. The words hit harder than she expected. Her parents, who'd been murdered for trying to do the right thing, who'd never gotten to see her succeed, who'd died thinking their daughter was going to change the world. I need to visit their grave, Aria said suddenly. Adrian nodded. I'll arrange it. Private, secure. Thank you. For what? For giving me the chance to fight back, for believing I was worth saving. You saved yourself, Aria. I just provided the ammunition. Maybe that was true. Maybe it wasn't. Either way, she was still standing, still breathing, still here. That had to count for something. The next morning, Aria stood outside Ember for the first time in 3 years. The restaurant looked different, bigger, more polished. Daniel had clearly put money into renovations. New signage, expensive landscaping, the kind of aesthetic that screamed success. But it was still her restaurant, built on her dreams, her recipes, her vision. Adrian stood beside her, hands in his pockets. Ready? No. Good. The best things happen when you're not ready. They walked in together. The interior had changed too. New furniture, different lighting, but the bones were the same. The open kitchen she'd designed, the bar placement, the flow from dining room to prep area. A woman in chef's whites looked up from the prep station. Her eyes widened when she saw Aria. Oh my God, you're Aria Bennett. I am. I've studied your work, your original menu designs. They're brilliant. She wiped her hands on her apron. I'm Sarah Chen, head chef. Or I was, until about 10 minutes ago when Mr. Voss's lawyers showed up. You knew? Everyone knows. Daniel's been calling all morning, screaming about lawsuits and fraud and how we're all unemployed. Sarah smiled. It looked relieved. Honestly, I'm glad. Working for him was exhausting. He'd change his mind 3 times a day about menu items. Couldn't make a decision without consulting 5 different people. That sounds like Daniel. Are you taking over? Aria looked at Adrian. He nodded. Yes, if you'll stay. I could use someone who actually knows how the kitchen runs. Are you kidding? I'd kill to work with you. Your Korean short rib. I've been trying to recreate it for 2 years. Never got it quite right. That's because the secret is in the timing. You have to let the gochujang caramelize at exactly the right temperature. Too hot and it burns. Too cool and it doesn't develop the complexity. Sarah's eyes lit up. Can you show me? Right now? Why not? Kitchen's empty. Prep's done. And I have everything we need. Aria looked down at her clothes. Designer suit, expensive shoes. Not exactly kitchen appropriate. I don't have my whites. I have extras. We're about the same size. Sarah was already heading to the back. Come on. Let's cook. Adrian caught Aria's arm. Go. I'll handle the paperwork. You sure? I'm sure. This is your moment, not mine. He squeezed her arm gently. Show them what they've been missing. So she did. Sarah's spare whites fit perfectly. The kitchen felt familiar despite 3 years away. The weight of a knife in her hand, the smell of garlic and sesame oil, the rhythm of chopping and searing and tasting. She walked Sarah through the short rib preparation, explaining each step, each decision. Why the marinade needed 24 hours, why the rice cakes had to be fried twice, why the pickled daikon balanced the richness. Other kitchen staff drifted over, watching, asking questions, taking notes. And for the first time in 3 years, Aria felt like herself. Not the broken woman who'd lost everything, not the ghost working catering jobs, just a chef who loved food, who understood how flavors work together, who could create something beautiful from raw ingredients and fire. When the dish was done, Sarah tasted it, her expression transformed. That's it. That's the flavor I've been chasing. It's not that complicated. You just have to trust the process. Easy for you to say. You invented the process. Aria laughed. It felt good, real. She looked up and saw Adrian watching from the dining room. He'd been there the whole time, apparently, just observing. Their eyes met. He smiled. And something in that smile made her chest tight. Because this was it. This was what she'd been fighting for. Not revenge, not justice. Just the simple joy of doing what she loved in a place that felt like home. What else can you teach us? Sarah asked. Aria thought about her notebooks. All those recipes she'd developed and never got to serve. Everything. I can teach you everything. They cooked for hours, dish after dish, her original menu. New ideas, experimental flavors. The kitchen filled with steam and spices and laughter. By the time they finished, it was dark outside. Adrian appeared with contracts, transfer papers, legal documents that officially made Aria Bennett the owner of Ember. She signed her name. It felt surreal. Congratulations, Adrian said quietly. You're officially a restaurant owner again. Partners, she corrected. The contracts say 50-50. That's not necessary. Yes, it is. You made this possible. You risked everything to help me fight back. So we're partners, equal stakes, equal say. He studied her face. You're sure? I'm sure. Then I accept. On one condition. What condition? You never compromise your vision for profit. You never let anyone, including me, tell you what kind of chef you should be. His expression was serious. This restaurant succeeds or fails on your terms. Not mine. Aria's throat tightened. Deal. They shook hands. It felt formal, official. The beginning of something new. Sarah appeared with champagne. Someone left this in the wine cellar. Figured we should celebrate. They drank. The whole kitchen staff. Toasting the future. Toasting possibility. Aria stood in the center of the dining room and looked around. At the restaurant she'd dreamed of building. At the team she was going to lead. At the man who'd helped her reclaim everything. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. You think you've won, but you're going to regret this. All of it. She deleted it without responding. Because he was wrong. She didn't think she'd won. She knew it. And the best part? She didn't even care about him anymore. Didn't care about his threats or his lawsuits or his desperate attempts to stay relevant. He was already in her past. A mistake she'd learned from. But Ember, this kitchen, this team, that was her future. Adrian appeared beside her. Everything okay? Yeah, just deleting garbage. Daniel? How'd you guess? Because men like him don't know when to quit. They think if they scream loud enough, people will still listen. Adrian sipped his champagne. But here's what he doesn't understand. You've already moved on, built something better, and no amount of legal threats can take that away. Well, what if he tries? What if he files lawsuits or goes to the press or... Then we handle it. Together. Adrian's voice was certain. You're not fighting alone anymore, Aria. You have a team, resources, and me. Whatever comes next, we face it. She wanted to believe that, wanted to trust that this wasn't temporary, that she'd actually built something stable. But she'd been burned before. Learned that promises were easy and follow-through was rare. Adrian must have seen something in her expression because he set down his glass and turned to face her fully. I'm not Daniel. I'm not going to take what's yours and call it mine. This restaurant, Your name is on it. Your vision drives it. I'm just here to make sure you have what you need to succeed. Why? Why would you do that? Because 2 years ago I lost my brother. And in my grief, I became someone I didn't recognize. Someone who cared more about revenge than anything else. He paused. But helping you fight back? Watching you reclaim your life? It reminded me that destruction isn't the only path forward. You're saying I saved you? I'm saying we saved each other. His gray eyes held hers. You needed someone who'd fight for you. I needed a reason to fight for something other than vengeance. Seems like a fair trade. Aria's heart hammered. And now that the fighting's over, now we build. You create the best restaurant in the city. I expand the business and maybe... He stopped. Maybe what? Maybe we figure out if what we have is real or just battlefield bonding. The honesty gutted her. I don't know how to do this, she admitted. How to trust someone after everything. Neither do I, but I'm willing to try if you are. It was the most terrifying thing anyone had ever said to her, because it meant risking everything again, risking her heart, her trust, her carefully rebuilt walls. But standing there in the restaurant she'd dreamed of, surrounded by people who believed in her, with a man who'd helped her fight back, looking at her like she mattered, maybe risk was worth it. Okay. Let's try. Let's build something. Together. Adrian smiled, and for the first time since she'd met him, it reached his eyes, made him look younger, almost vulnerable. He kissed her, soft and slow and nothing like the possessive claim at the gala. This was different, a promise instead of a statement. When they broke apart, Sarah was cheering. The whole kitchen staff was watching, apparently, grinning like idiots. About damn time, Sarah said. We've been watching you two circle each other all day. Aria's face heated. We weren't. You were. Trust me, the sexual tension was making the desserts melt. Everyone laughed. Even Adrian. And Aria realized something. She was happy. Actually, genuinely happy. For the first time in 3 years. Not because she destroyed Daniel. Not because Marcus Vance was in custody. Not even because she'd gotten her restaurant back. But because she'd remembered who she was. Remembered what she loved. And found people who saw her for exactly who she was. Messy and broken and brilliant and strong. Her phone buzzed again. But this time it was Maya. When's the grand reopening? And I'm flying out. Want to see you crush it. Aria smiled and typed back. 2 weeks. Be there. Wouldn't miss it for anything. Love you. Love you too. She pocketed her phone and looked at Adrian. 2 weeks until we reopen. Think we can pull it off? I think you can do anything you set your mind to. That's a lot of faith. I've earned the right to have faith in you. I've seen what you're capable of. Sarah raised her glass. To Ember. To new beginnings. To the best damn chef in the city finally getting what she deserves. They all drank. And Aria stood in the center of her restaurant, and felt something she'd almost forgotten how to feel. Peace. Not the absence of conflict. Not the quiet of giving up. But the deep, settled peace that came from fighting for something and actually winning. Daniel could send his lawyers. Marcus Vance could appeal his conviction. The press could say whatever they wanted. None of it mattered anymore, because she'd taken back her life, her name, her future. And nobody was ever taking it from her again. The peace lasted exactly 6 days. Aria was in the kitchen testing a new dessert, black sesame ice cream with miso butterscotch, when Adrian's head of security appeared in the doorway. His face was grim. Ms. Bennett, we need to talk. She set down her spoon. What happened? Not here. Mr. Voss is waiting upstairs. The private office above the restaurant had become Adrian's unofficial command center. He spent most evenings there now working through contracts and expansion plans while Aria perfected her menu. When she walked in, he was standing at the window. His shoulders were tense in a way she'd learned to recognize. Something was wrong. Tell me. He turned, holding a manila envelope. This arrived an hour ago. Courier. No return address. Aria took it. Inside were photographs. Her and Adrian leaving the restaurant together. At his penthouse. In his car. Dozens of them. Taken over the past week. And a note in typed text. You took something from us. Now we take something from you. Her blood went cold. Who sent this? Best guess? Associates of Marcus Vance, people who lost money when his empire collapsed. Adrian's voice was tight. They're watching us. Have been for days. Why didn't your security notice? Because they're professionals. Former intelligence, probably. They know how to stay invisible. He pulled out his phone, showed her another message. This one had come to his private number. They sent this 5 minutes ago. The image made her stomach drop. Maya, walking into her apartment building in Portland, completely unaware she was being photographed. They're threatening my sister again. Not threatening, warning. There's a difference. Adrian's jaw was tight. They want us to know they can reach anyone, anytime. Aria's hand shook. I thought this was over. I thought Marcus being in custody meant Marcus was the head, but the organization runs deeper than one man. Money laundering operations don't disappear because the founder gets arrested. They adapt. He took back the phone. I should have anticipated this. Should have known they'd retaliate. So what do? We escalate security. Maya gets a full protection detail. You don't go anywhere without guards. And we accelerate our timeline. What timeline? Adrian pulled up a file on his computer. Financial records. Shell companies. A web of transactions that looked like organized chaos. For the past 3 days, my team has been tracking Vance's remaining assets. Money he hid. Accounts his lawyers don't know about. And we found something interesting. He zoomed in on a series of transactions. All from the same week her parents died. Someone paid $500,000 to a company called Titan Security. 3 days later, your parents were dead. 2 days after that, the same company received another $250,000. Payment for murder. Exactly. And Titan Security is still operating, still taking contracts, still eliminating people who threaten their clients. Aria's vision blurred. You're saying the same people who killed my parents are the ones threatening us now. I'm saying Marcus Vance was just the client. Titan is the weapon. And until we dismantle them completely, no one is safe. The weight of it crushed down. This wasn't over. Wouldn't be over until every person involved in her parents' deaths was destroyed. How do we dismantle them? We do what I should have done from the beginning. We don't just expose them, we infiltrate them. Adrian's eyes were cold. And for that, I need something from you. What? Your trust. Complete trust. Because what I'm about to propose is dangerous and possibly illegal, and definitely something you can refuse. Aria sat down. Her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. I'm listening. Titan Security takes contracts through a private network. Invitation only. You need a reference from an existing client to even make contact. He pulled up another file. Daniel's family has used them before, 3 times in the past 5 years, all for eliminating business competitors. You want to use Daniel to get access? No, I want to use you. The room tilted. Explain. Adrian sat across from her. Daniel's desperate. His career is imploding. His investors abandoned him. He's facing fraud charges that could put him away for years. Men like him don't accept defeat gracefully. They lash out. So we give him a target. We make him think he can salvage his reputation by destroying you. Publicly. Completely. And when he reaches out to Titan for help, we intercept the communication. Track it back to their network. Get inside their operation. You want to use me as bait. I want to give you the chance to finish what your parents started, to expose the people who killed them and make sure they can never hurt anyone else. He leaned forward. But it means putting yourself at risk. It means becoming a target. And I won't ask you to do that unless you're absolutely certain. Aria's mind raced. This was insane. Using herself as bait to draw out professional killers, trusting that Adrian's plan would work before someone actually tried to eliminate her. But her parents had died investigating these people, had died trying to expose corruption and violence and all the darkness that happened in shadows. Maybe finishing their work was worth the risk. What would I have to do? First, we make you visible. Start giving interviews about Ember's reopening. Talk about how you reclaimed the restaurant from Daniel. Make it clear you're not afraid of him. That'll provoke him. That's the point. We want him angry, want him desperate enough to reach out to Titan. Adrian pulled up a timeline. Second, we stage a confrontation. Public, messy. Something that makes Daniel look weak and you look victorious. And third, we wait. When Daniel contacts Titan, my people trace the communication. We identify their network. And then we feed the information to the FBI along with everything we have on your parents' case. It sounded simple. It probably wasn't. What if something goes wrong? What if Titan moves faster than you expect? Then I have contingencies, backup plans, people who will extract you before anything happens. His voice softened. Aria, I won't let them hurt you. I swear it. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll do everything in my power to make sure you're safe. And I can promise that if we do this right, we'll end them, all of them. She looked at the photographs again, her and Adrian, Maya, evidence that these people were already watching, already planning. They're going to come after us anyway, aren't they? Yes. Then we might as well make it count. Adrian's expression shifted, pride mixed with something darker. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She stood. When do we start? Tomorrow. There's a food critic from the Times coming to preview Ember's reopening. You give her the full story. How Daniel stole your work, how you fought back. Everything. That'll make me a target. It'll make you the target, which is exactly what we need. He stood too, cross to her. Last chance to back out. Aria thought about her parents, about 5 years of believing their deaths were random, about the people who'd killed them still walking free, still taking contracts, still destroying lives. I'm not backing out. Then tomorrow we go to war. Again. The next morning, Aria sat across from Jennifer Walsh, senior food critic for the New York Times. The woman had a reputation for being ruthless. Fair, but ruthless. So, Jennifer said, her recorder running between them, tell me about Ember, the restaurant that almost wasn't. Aria had rehearsed this, knew exactly what to say. But, sitting here, about to make herself a public target, her mouth went dry. 3 years ago, I developed every recipe for this restaurant. Every dish you'll taste today came from my notebooks, my research, my vision. But the restaurant opened under Daniel Cross's name. Because I trusted him. We were engaged, building our future together. Or so I thought. She forced herself to stay calm. 2 weeks before opening, he ended the engagement and kept everything. The restaurant, the recipes, the name, all of it. Jennifer's pen moved across her notepad. Why didn't you fight back? Because his family had lawyers I couldn't afford. Because I was broke and grieving and alone. Because fighting seemed impossible. What changed? Aria looked at Adrian, who stood near the kitchen entrance. He nodded once. I stopped being afraid of him. Stopped letting him control my story. She met Jennifer's eyes. Daniel Cross is a talented businessman. Good at networking, at marketing, at making people believe his narrative, but he's not a chef. He never was. And every success Ember had was built on work he stole from me. Those are serious accusations. They're facts. I have documentation, original notebooks, email chains, video footage from our development kitchen. All of it proves I created those dishes. Jennifer leaned forward, and now you're taking the restaurant back. With Adrian Voss's help, yes. We're partners now, equal ownership. And when Ember reopens next week, it'll be under my vision, my standards, my name. How does Daniel feel about that? You'd have to ask him, but based on the legal threats he keeps sending, I'd say he's not handling it well. Do you worry about retaliation? This was it, the moment where she painted a target on herself. Daniel's already tried to destroy me once. He failed. If he wants to try again, he's welcome to. She smiled. But this time, I'm ready. And I'm not fighting alone. The interview continued for another hour. Jennifer asked about the menu, the reopening, Aria's culinary philosophy. All normal questions, but the damage was done. By tomorrow, this story would be everywhere. Aria Bennett reclaiming her restaurant from the man who stole it. David versus Goliath. The perfect narrative. And Daniel would see it, would read every word, would feel the humiliation of being publicly exposed, would reach out to the only people who could help him salvage his reputation. After Jennifer left, Adrian appeared with his security chief. She bought it. Article goes live tomorrow morning. He showed her his phone. My people are already monitoring Daniel's communications. The moment he makes contact with anyone suspicious, we'll know. How long before he reaches out to Titan? Days. Maybe hours if he's as desperate as I think. And then? Then we trace the communication, identify their network, and feed everything to the FBI with enough evidence that they can't ignore it. It sounded simple. It still probably wasn't. Aria's phone buzzed, a text from Maya. Just read the preview of your interview. You're really going after him. She replied, someone has to. Be careful. Daniel's not the kind of guy who accepts defeat. I know. That's what I'm counting on. Maya sent back a string of worried emojis. Then, I'm flying in early. Tomorrow. Don't argue. Aria smiled despite everything. Fine. But you stay at Adrian's building. Full security. Deal. Love you. Love you too. She pocketed her phone and found Adrian watching her. Maya's coming tomorrow. I'll arrange a car from the airport. Full detail. She's going to hate this. All the security, the watching. Better than the alternative. His expression was grim. These people don't play games, Aria. Once this article drops, you're officially a problem they need to solve. I know. Do you? Because there's knowing intellectually and knowing in your bones that someone might actually try to kill you. Those are different things. She thought about her parents, about the car crash that wasn't a crash, about 5 years of unanswered questions. They already killed my parents, threatened my sister, tried to destroy my life through Daniel. I know exactly what they're capable of. She met his gaze. And I'm doing this anyway. Pride flickered across his face. Then let's make sure we're ready. The security briefing lasted 2 hours. Exit routes from the restaurant, safe houses across the city, code words for different threat levels. What to do if someone approached her, who to call if anything felt wrong. By the time they finished, Aria's head was spinning. This is insane, she said quietly. Welcome to my world. Adrian pulled up another file. But here's what they don't know. We've been tracking Titan for months. We know their patterns, how they scout targets, how they make contact, and we know they're arrogant. They think they're untouchable. And that helps us how? Because arrogant people make mistakes. They underestimate their targets. Get sloppy. He showed her surveillance footage. Men in unmarked cars, people following patterns. These are Titan operatives. We've identified 3 so far, and once Daniel makes contact, they'll start surveillance. That's when we move. Move how? We feed them false information, make them think you're vulnerable, unprotected, an easy target. His smile was cold, and when they make their move, we'll be waiting. You're using me as bait, again. I'm using you as the trigger. There's a difference. Not from where I'm standing. Adrian's expression softened. I know this is terrifying. I know asking you to trust me is asking a lot. But I swear to you, I have people positioned at every possible point of failure. You will not be alone. You will not be unprotected. And if anything goes wrong, I have extraction teams ready to move in seconds. And if they move faster than your teams, they won't. You can't know that. I can. Because I've spent 2 years studying how Titan operates. I know their timeline, their protocols, how they assess threats and execute contracts. He pulled her close. I won't let them hurt you. Aria wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that he had everything under control. But she'd learned the hard way that control was an illusion, that chaos always found a way in. Still, this was the path she'd chosen. For her parents, for herself, for everyone else Titan had destroyed. Okay, we do this. Adrian kissed her forehead. Tomorrow, the article drops. And then things get interesting. The article went live at 6 a.m. By 7, it had 40,000 shares. By 8, every major news outlet had picked it up. By 9, Aria's phone was flooded with interview requests, messages of support, and death threats. She sat in Ember's office reading through them while Sarah handled prep downstairs. Some messages were kind, people congratulating her for fighting back, sharing their own stories of being stolen from, betrayed, erased. Others were vicious, calling her bitter, vindictive, a liar, trying to destroy a successful man's career. Those came mostly from anonymous accounts, probably Daniel's friends, possibly Daniel himself. And then there were the ones that made her blood run cold. You should have stayed quiet. Some truths are better left buried. Enjoy your victory while it lasts. Adrian appeared in the doorway. Daniel's lawyers just filed a defamation suit, $10 million in damages. Let me guess. They're claiming I lied in the interview. Every word. They're saying the restaurant was collaborative. You're misrepresenting the development process, and you're trying to destroy his reputation out of spite. Can they win? No. We have too much evidence, but it'll drag through courts for months, cost money and time and energy. He sat across from her, which is exactly the point. Bury you in legal fees until you can't afford to fight. Except I have you. Except you have me. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. We have movement. Daniel just made a call to an unlisted number, encrypted. My team is tracing it now. Aria's heart hammered. Titan? Too early to tell, but it's suspicious enough to flag. He stood. Stay here. Don't leave the building. My people are already in position outside. Where are you going? To make sure we don't lose this thread. If Daniel's reaching out to Titan, I need eyes on that communication. He left before she could argue. Aria sat alone in the office, listening to the kitchen sounds below. Sarah calling orders, pans clattering, the familiar rhythm of prep work. Normal sounds, from a life that was anything but normal. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then instinct made her pick up. Aria Bennett? The voice was male, calm, professional, unfamiliar. Who is this? Someone who wants to help you. I know what you're planning. Know you're trying to expose Titan security. Her blood went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do, and I'm telling you to stop, because you're walking into something far more dangerous than you understand. Who are you? Someone who used to work for them. Someone who got out before it was too late. A pause. They know about your plan, know you're using yourself as bait, and they're not going to play along? How would they know it? Because they're not stupid, and because Adrian Voss isn't as invisible as he thinks. The voice dropped. Listen to me carefully. Titan doesn't do business the way you expect. They don't wait for contracts. They preemptively eliminate threats. And right now, you're the biggest threat they have. Aria's hands shook. What does that mean? It means they're not waiting for Daniel to hire them. They're going to come after you regardless. Tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But soon. Why are you telling me this? Because I've seen what they do to people who get in their way. And because you remind me of someone I couldn't save. A pause. Get out of the city. Take your sister and disappear. It's the only way you survive. I can't. Then you're already dead. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Aria stared at her phone, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might crack her ribs. This was a trick. Had to be. Someone trying to scare her into running. But what if it wasn't? She called Adrian. He answered immediately. What's wrong? Someone just called me, said they used to work for Titan, said they're not waiting for a contract. They're coming after me now. Silence on the other end. Then, stay exactly where you are. I'm sending a team to you right now. Don't leave that room. Don't open the door for anyone except my people. Adrian, I mean it. No one else. I'm 10 minutes away. He hung up. Aria locked the office door, backed away from it. Her mind raced through possibilities. This could be psychological warfare. Make her paranoid. Make her run. Or it could be genuine. Someone trying to warn her before it was too late. Either way, she was trapped. In this building. In this plan. In a war she'd started but couldn't control. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Quick. She grabbed a knife from the desk drawer. Ridiculous weapon against professionals, but better than nothing. A knock. Ms. Bennett? It's Jenkins. Mr. Voss sent me. Jenkins. Adrian's head of security. The man who'd protected her in the garage. But the voice sounded wrong. Too high. Too uncertain. Prove it's you. Ma'am, we don't have time for she. Prove it, or I'm not opening this door. Silence. Then, Mr. Voss said to tell you the first time he saw you, you looked like someone who'd forgotten they were supposed to be alive. The words hit like a punch. Adrian had said exactly that. Had said it the night he explained why he was helping her. She unlocked the door. The man on the other side wasn't Jenkins. He was younger, harder, and he had a gun. Aria tried to slam the door, too slow. He caught it, forced his way in. Don't scream, don't fight. This doesn't have to hurt. She swung the knife, wild, desperate. He blocked it easily, twisted her arm until she dropped the blade. I said don't fight. Who are you? Someone hired to make a problem go away. He pulled out zip ties. We're going for a walk. Quiet. Calm. You make a scene, I shoot everyone in the kitchen downstairs, understand? Aria's mind raced. Scream for help and Sarah dies. Fight and everyone dies. Comply and maybe, she lived long enough for Adrian to find her. I understand. Good. Hands behind your back. She obeyed. Felt the plastic bite into her wrists. He guided her toward the back stairs. The service exit. Away from the kitchen. Away from witnesses. This was it. The moment her plan fell apart. The moment she became another casualty in a war she'd started. They reached the alley door. He pushed it open and found Adrian standing on the other side, with 6 armed men, all pointing weapons at them. Let her go! Adrian's voice was ice. Now! The man holding Aria froze, calculated. His gun was pressed against her spine. I walk away, or she dies. You die either way. Question is whether you take her with you. You're bluffing. Try me. Adrian's expression was absolute. You have 3 seconds. Let her go, or find out what happens when you threaten what's mine. The man's grip tightened, then loosened. He shoved Aria forward. She stumbled into Adrian's arms. Run, Adrian told the man, and tell whoever sent you that next time they won't get a warning. The man ran. Adrian's team let him go. Why, Aria started. Because he's more useful scared than dead. He'll report back. Tell them their plan failed. Make them scramble. Adrian cut her zip ties with a knife. Are you hurt? No, shaken, but not hurt. Good, because we're leaving, now. He guided her to a waiting car. They were moving before she could process what just happened. How did you know? She asked. Because I've been tracking their surveillance. Knew they had someone inside the building. When you called, I put it together. His jaw was tight. That phone call you got? It was real. Former Titan operative named Marcus Chen. He's been helping the FBI for months. He warned you because the timeline accelerated. They're not waiting for Daniel. No, they're moving now, which means we move faster. The car pulled into an underground garage. Different building, different neighborhood. Adrian led her to an elevator. It descended instead of rising. Where are we? Safe house. 3 levels underground. Reinforced walls, multiple exits. They can't touch you here. The elevator opened onto what looked like a luxury bunker. Living quarters, kitchen, office space, all underground. How long do I have to stay here? Until we finish this. One way or another. Adrian pulled out his phone. Maya's already here. My team extracted her from the airport when the threat level escalated. She must be terrified. She's furious, but safe. Maya appeared from one of the bedrooms. She looked scared and angry in equal measure. What the hell is going on? Aria hugged her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Stop apologizing and start explaining. So she did. Told her everything. The plan. The phone call. The man in her office. Maya listened, then punched Aria's shoulder, hard. Ow! That's for being an idiot. Using yourself as bait? Are you insane? Probably. Definitely. Maya turned to Adrian. And you? You let her do this? I didn't let her do anything. She made a choice. A stupid choice. A necessary one, Aria corrected. These people killed our parents, Maya. They're still out there, still hurting people. Someone has to stop them. Someone. Not you specifically. Yes, me. Because I'm the one with the evidence, the connection, the motivation. She met her sister's eyes. And because if I don't finish what Mom and Dad started, who will? Maya's expression crumpled. I can't lose you too. You won't, I promise. You can't promise that. No, but I can promise I'll fight like hell to come back. They held each other while Adrian worked on his phone, making calls, coordinating, planning whatever came next. Finally, he hung up and looked at them. Marcus Chen, the man who called you, just delivered full documentation to the FBI. Names, contracts, financial records, everything Titan has done for the past 10 years, including your parents' case. Aria's chest tightened. That's good, right? It's excellent. It means federal agents are moving on Titan's known locations right now. Arrests are already happening. So it's over? Not yet. Because Titan's leadership is still in the wind, and they know their organization is collapsing, which makes them desperate, dangerous. What does that mean for us? It means we stay here until the FBI confirms they have everyone. Could be hours, could be days. Maya sank onto the couch. This is insane. This is justice, Adrian corrected. Messy, violent, nothing like what you see in movies, but justice nonetheless. His phone buzzed. He answered, listened, and his expression changed. Understood. Keep me posted. He hung up and looked at Aria. They found him, the man from your office. He's in custody, and he's talking. Talking about what? Everything. Who hired him, how they found you, the entire network. Adrian's smile was cold. He's giving up Titan's leadership in exchange for immunity. By tomorrow, this is over. Aria's legs gave out. She sat beside Maya, her hands shaking. It's actually over. Not yet, but soon. Maya grabbed her hand, squeezed tight, and Aria sat in an underground bunker with her sister and the man who'd helped her fight back and waited for the world to finish burning down around them. 3 hours later, Adrian got the call. FBI had arrested 12 people, including Titan's founder, including the man who'd ordered her parents' deaths. It was done. Aria stood when Adrian told her, walked to the bathroom, closed the door, and finally let herself cry. For her parents. For the 5 years she'd spent believing their deaths were random. For the grief she'd carried thinking justice would never come. She cried until her throat was raw and her eyes burned and she had nothing left. Then she washed her face, straightened her spine, and walked back out to face whatever came next. Because this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. When Aria walked back into the main room, Maya and Adrian were sitting in tense silence. Her sister looked up first. You okay? No, but I will be. Aria's voice was raw. What happens now? Adrian stood, pocketing his phone. Now the FBI processes the arrests, builds their case, and we prepare for what comes next. Which is? Testimony. You'll need to give a full statement about your parents' investigation, what they found, what happened after they died. All of it. The thought of reliving those details made her stomach turn, but she nodded anyway. When? Tomorrow. They want to move fast before Titan's lawyers start building defenses. He paused. There's something else. Daniel's been arrested. Aria's breath caught. For what? Conspiracy. Turns out he did more than just contact Titan. He paid them. $50,000 for consultation services. Adrian's expression was grim. The consultation was about making you disappear. Permanently. Maya's hand flew to her mouth. He tried to have you killed. He tried to hire people who kill for a living. Whether they would have actually gone through with it is debatable. But the intent was there. The FBI has the wire transfers, the communications, everything. Aria should have felt something. Shock, betrayal, vindication. Instead, she just felt tired. So he's done. Actually done. Facing 20 to 30 years if convicted, his family's already disowned him. The restaurant industry has blacklisted him. By tomorrow, Daniel Cross will be a cautionary tale about what happens when greed overtakes judgment. It was everything she'd wanted. Total destruction, complete erasure. Daniel reduced to nothing while she reclaimed everything. But standing in an underground bunker after nearly being kidnapped, it didn't feel like victory. It felt hollow. I need air, she said quietly. There's a courtyard, 1 level up, secure. Adrian gestured to the elevator. I'll show you. The courtyard was small but open to the sky. Real plants, real sunlight filtering through reinforced glass. A slice of normal in the middle of paranoia. Aria sat on a bench and tilted her face toward the light. Adrian sat beside her. Talk to me. About what? About whatever's making you look like you just lost instead of won. She laughed. It came out bitter. Is that what this is? Winning? You exposed the people who killed your parents. Destroyed the man who stole your life's work. Took back your restaurant and your future. That sounds like winning to me. Then why do I feel so empty? Adrian was quiet for a moment. Because revenge doesn't fill the holes people leave. It just stops them from getting bigger. You said that before. It's still true. Destroying your enemies doesn't bring back what they took. It just prevents them from taking more. Aria closed her eyes, felt the sun on her face. My parents are still dead. 5 years of my life are still gone. And no amount of justice changes that. No, it doesn't. His hand found hers. But it means their deaths mattered, meant something. They died investigating corruption. And you finished what they started. That's not nothing. It feels like nothing. It won't always. Right now you're still processing. Still running on adrenaline and fear and rage. But eventually you'll wake up and realize you're free. Actually free. No one has power over you anymore. She wanted to believe that. Wanted to trust that the emptiness would fade and something better would take its place. But she'd spent 3 years learning that hope was dangerous. That trusting in better outcomes led to disappointment. What if I don't know how to be free? What if I've spent so long surviving that I don't remember how to actually live? Adrian turned her to face him. His gray eyes were serious. Then you learn. One day at a time, one choice at a time. You wake up tomorrow and you cook. Not because you have to prove anything, not because you're fighting anyone, just because you love it. And the day after? You do it again, and the day after that. Until eventually you're not thinking about Daniel or Titan or any of it. You're just living, creating, building something that matters to you. You make it sound simple. It's not. It's the hardest thing you'll ever do. Letting go of the anger, the need for revenge, the constant fight. He paused. But you're strong enough. I've seen it. Aria's throat tightened. What about you? What happens when this is over and you don't have a war to fight anymore? His smile was sad. Honestly, I don't know. I've spent 2 years focused on avenging my brother, on destroying the people who killed him. I haven't thought past that. Maybe you should. Maybe we both should. He stood, pulled her to her feet. But first we finish this. Tomorrow, you give your statement. The FBI builds their case, and we make absolutely certain that everyone involved pays for what they did. And then? Then we figure out who we are when we're not fighting for our lives. They went back inside. Maya was on her phone texting someone rapidly. Everything okay? Aria asked. My boss, explaining why I need emergency leave again. Maya looked up. She's being understanding, which is good because I'm not leaving until this is actually over. Maya, don't. I already lost Mom and Dad. I'm not losing you too, so I'm staying. Deal with it. Aria hugged her. Thank you. You can thank me by never using yourself as bait again. My heart can't take it. Deal. Adrian's phone rang. He stepped away to answer it. When he came back, his expression was carefully neutral. That was the FBI. They want to move up your testimony. Tonight instead of tomorrow. Why? Because Titan's lawyers are already filing motions, trying to suppress evidence, claim illegal surveillance, the usual defense tactics. The faster we get your statement on record, the harder it is for them to fight it. Aria's stomach dropped. Tonight, as in right now. Within the hour. They're sending agents here. I'm not ready. You are. You've been ready for 5 years. You just didn't know it yet. Adrian's voice was steady. Tell them everything about your parents, their investigation, what happened after they died, all of it. Don't hold back. What if I can't remember details? What if I get something wrong? Then you say you don't remember. The FBI doesn't expect perfect recall. They expect honesty. He touched her shoulder. You can do this. Maya stood. I'm staying with you for the interview. You don't have to. I'm staying. Those were our parents too. I deserve to hear what really happened to them. 30 minutes later, 2 FBI agents arrived. A woman named Sarah Chen and a man named Robert Martinez. They looked professional, kind even. But there was steel underneath. Ms. Bennett, thank you for agreeing to speak with us, Chen said. We know this is difficult. We'll try to make it as quick and painless as possible. They sat in the bunker's living room. Chen set up a recording device. Martinez pulled out a notepad. Whenever you're ready, Chen said gently. Aria took a breath. Where do you want me to start? Your parents. Tell us about their restaurant. what they were investigating. So she did. Told them about the small place her parents had owned, how they'd noticed discrepancies in their books, money appearing that shouldn't have been there, deposits from accounts they didn't recognize. They thought it was a mistake at first, accounting error. But my dad was meticulous about records. He started digging, found that someone had been using their restaurant to launder money. Small amounts, spread over months, easy to miss unless you knew what to look for. Did they know who was behind it? Martinez asked. They found a name, Marcus Vance, and a company, Donovan Group. They were going to report it, had compiled evidence, financial records, proof of the transactions. What happened then? They died. Car accident. Police said my dad lost control on a wet road, but he was the most careful driver I knew, never took risks, and the road wasn't that wet. It had barely rained. Chen leaned forward. Did you suspect something was wrong? I didn't want to. Wanted to believe it was just bad luck, bad timing, but there were things that didn't add up. The investigator closed the case too quickly, barely looked at the evidence, and when I tried to push for a deeper investigation, I got shut down, told to accept it and move on. Did anyone threaten you? Not directly, but I got the message. Stop asking questions or face consequences. And Daniel Cross, how does he fit into this? Aria's hands clenched. We were together when my parents died. He was supportive at first, helped me through the grief, encouraged me to focus on building Ember instead of dwelling on the past. But looking back, I think he was trying to distract me, keep me from investigating. He discouraged me every time I mentioned wanting answers about the accident. She paused. I thought he was trying to protect me. Now I think he was protecting himself. Martinez made notes. What makes you think that? Because a year after my parents died, Daniel suddenly had new investors, people with connections to Donovan Group, people who wanted to expand Ember aggressively. And when I questioned where the money was coming from, he ended our engagement and took the restaurant. You think the money was connected to your parents' deaths? I think Daniel made a deal. He got funding and investors. They got a legitimate business to launder money through. And I was the liability they couldn't afford. Chen and Martinez exchanged glances. That's a serious accusation, Chen said carefully. Do you have proof? No, just patterns, coincidences that add up to something bigger. Aria met the agent's eyes. But Adrian does. His investigators found the connections, the money trails, everything that links Daniel's investors to Marcus Vance to Titan Security. We'll need those records. You'll have them. Adrian's already compiled everything. The interview continued for another hour. They asked about the gala, about Adrian's involvement, about the threats and the kidnapping attempt and every detail that might help build their case. When they finally finished, Aria felt wrung out, empty. Chen closed her notepad. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. This is exactly what we needed. Will it be enough to convict them? Combined with Marcus Chen's testimony and the financial records, yes. We have a strong case, multiple counts of money laundering, conspiracy to commit murder, and racketeering. She paused. Your parents' investigation helped break this open. Without their initial evidence, we might never have found the full scope of Titan's operations. Something loosened in Aria's chest. They didn't die for nothing. No, they didn't. They died trying to expose corruption, and you finished what they started. That matters. After the agents left, Aria sat in silence. Maya was crying quietly. Adrian stood by the window, giving them space. I wish they could see this, Maya said finally. Wish they knew we got justice for them. Maybe they do. Aria pulled her sister close. Maybe somewhere they know we didn't give up. That we kept fighting. You kept fighting. I just hid in Seattle and tried to forget. You survived. That's not nothing. They held each other while the weight of 5 years finally started to lift. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, then looked at them. The FBI just issued a statement announcing the arrests, explaining the investigation. Your parents are mentioned, named as the investigators who first uncovered Titan's money laundering operation. He showed them the screen. The headline read, Massive criminal organization dismantled after 5-year investigation sparked by murdered restaurant owners. Aria read it twice. Her parents, finally getting credit for what they'd done. Finally being remembered as heroes instead of victims. They're going to be famous, Maya said softly. They're going to be remembered, Aria corrected, for doing the right thing even when it cost them everything. Her phone started buzzing. Messages flooding in, friends she hadn't heard from in years, former colleagues, even people she didn't know. All of them congratulating her, thanking her, calling her brave. She turned off her phone. I don't want to be brave. I just want to be done. Adrian crossed to her. You are. After tomorrow's arraignments, you won't have to think about any of this again. The FBI has what they need. The case moves forward without you. And Ember? Opens next week as planned. You cook, build your menu, create the restaurant you always dreamed of. He paused. Unless you want to delay, take time to process everything. No, I want to open, want to move forward, want to prove that I can build something beautiful even after all of this. Then that's what we'll do. Maya stood. I'm going to bed. My brain can't handle any more today. She hugged Aria, then headed to one of the bedrooms, leaving Aria alone with Adrian. You should rest too, he said quietly. I'm not tired, just wired. My mind won't stop. Want to talk about it? Not really. I just want to feel normal for 5 minutes. Want to forget that people tried to kill me, that my ex-fiancé is in jail, that my entire life has been consumed by violence and revenge. Adrian considered, then walked to the kitchen area, started pulling out ingredients. What are you doing? Making you forget, for 5 minutes. He found eggs, butter, bread. When's the last time you ate something that wasn't survival rations? This morning? Maybe. I don't remember. Then sit. Let me feed you. It was surreal. Adrian Voss, billionaire and orchestrator of elaborate revenge plots, making her scrambled eggs in an underground bunker. But she sat, watched him work. His movements were efficient but unpracticed. Someone who knew how to cook but rarely did. Where'd you learn? She asked. My brother. He was the chef in our family. Used to make breakfast every Sunday. Eggs, toast, terrible coffee that he insisted was gourmet. Adrian's voice softened. I haven't made this since he died. You don't have to eat. I want to. It's time I remembered the good parts instead of just mourning what I lost. He plated the eggs. They were slightly overcooked but edible. The toast was perfect. Aria took a bite. It tasted like comfort, like normalcy, like something other than constant fear. This is good. It's adequate. Don't patronize me. She laughed. Actually laughed. Fine. It's adequate, but I appreciate it anyway. They ate in comfortable silence. No talk of FBI investigations or criminal trials or anything else. Just food and quiet and the strange peace that came from surviving another day. When they finished, Adrian cleared the plates. Better? Yeah. She felt lighter, less like she was drowning. He sat beside her on the couch. Ask me. Ask you what? The question you've been wanting to ask since the gala. Aria's heart skipped. You said to wait until this was over. It's over. The arrests are made. The case is built. We're just waiting for the justice system to finish what we started. His gray eyes held hers. So ask me. Was it real? The kiss, everything after, or was I just useful? Adrian didn't look away. Both. The honesty stung. Explain. At first you were useful. A way to get to Daniel and through him to Marcus Vance. A means to an end. He paused. But somewhere between the gala and now, you became more than that. Became someone I actually cared about instead of just someone I was using. When? When you walked into that investor meeting. When you stood there and told the truth even though you were terrified. When you chose to fight instead of hide. He reached for her hand. You reminded me that strength isn't about never being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing it anyway. That's a pretty way of saying you used me and caught feelings. Yeah, pretty much. His smile was rueful. I'm not good at this. At being honest about what I want instead of just taking it. But I'm trying. What do you want? Honestly, I want to see where this goes. Want to find out if what we have is real or just trauma bonding. Want to build something that isn't about revenge or justice or any of it. He squeezed her hand, but only if you want that too. Aria looked at their joined hands, thought about everything they'd been through, the danger, the manipulation, the calculated risks, and underneath all of it, the moments of genuine connection, the way he'd fought for her, believed in her, helped her remember who she was. I want that too, but I need you to promise me something. What? No more secrets. No more plans you don't tell me about. If we're doing this, we do it as equals, partners, not puppet master and useful pawn. Deal. No more secrets. He pulled her closer. Anything else? Yeah. If you ever try to use me as bait again without telling me first, I will poison your food, slowly, painfully. Adrian laughed. It sounded genuine. Noted. No unauthorized bait situations. Good. He kissed her. Soft and slow, and nothing like the calculated performance at the gala. This was real, messy, human. When they broke apart, Aria rested her forehead against his. This is probably a terrible idea. Definitely, we're both disasters. Traumatized disasters with trust issues. And a shared tendency toward elaborate revenge plots. His smile was warm. But maybe that's what makes it work. We understand each other, the darkness, the need for justice, all of it. Or maybe we're both just too broken to know what healthy looks like. Could be that too. He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Only one way to find out. We try, we fail, we try again. Exactly. Aria's phone buzzed. She'd turned it back on without thinking. A message from Jennifer Walsh, the Times critic. Article about your parents just dropped. You should read it. She pulled up the link. The headline made her breath catch. The couple who died fighting corruption. How Helen and Robert Bennett's investigation led to the downfall of a criminal empire. The article detailed everything. Her parents' restaurant, the investigation, the evidence they'd compiled, how their deaths had been dismissed as an accident until their daughter refused to let it go. It painted them as heroes, ordinary people who'd stood up to extraordinary evil and paid the ultimate price. They're telling their story, Aria said softly. Finally, Adrian read over her shoulder. They deserve this. Deserve to be remembered. I wish they were here to see it. They are. In you. In everything you've built. In your refusal to accept injustice. He pulled her close. You're their legacy, Aria. Living proof that what they fought for mattered. She let herself cry again. But this time it wasn't grief. It was release. The weight of 5 years finally lifting. Her parents were gone. Nothing would bring them back. But their deaths hadn't been meaningless. Hadn't been forgotten. And the people who'd killed them were facing justice. That had to be enough. Maya appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. Can't sleep. Too much adrenaline. Join the club, Aria said. Her sister sat on the other side of the couch. I read the article. About Mom and Dad. Me too. It's weird. Seeing their names everywhere. Seeing them called heroes. They were heroes. We just didn't realize it until now. Maya pulled out her phone. Showed Aria the screen. People are setting up a memorial fund in their names to help other small business owners fight corruption. Aria read the donation page. In 3 hours, it had raised over $200,000. They're making a difference, even now. Yeah, they are. Maya wiped her eyes. I'm proud of them. And I'm proud of you. For finishing what they started. I couldn't have done it alone. But you did it. That's what matters. They sat together. 3 people who'd survived when they shouldn't have, who'd fought back when it seemed impossible, who'd turned grief and rage into something that actually mattered. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, then stood. The FBI just confirmed. All arraignments are tomorrow morning. Titan's leadership, Marcus Vance, Daniel, and everyone connected to the organization. Full charges, no plea deals. It's really happening. It's really happening. He looked at Aria. You want to be there? For the arraignments? Do I have to testify? No, just observe. See them in handcuffs. See them facing consequences. Aria thought about it. About Daniel. About the faceless men who'd killed her parents. About all the people who'd thought they were untouchable. Yeah, I want to be there. Want to watch them fall. Then we'll be there. All of us. Adrian's smile was sharp. Front row seats to justice. Maya squeezed Aria's hand. Mom and Dad would want us there. Would want us to see this through to the end. Then that's what we'll do. They sat in the underground bunker and planned for tomorrow. for the moment when everyone who'd destroyed their lives would finally face the consequences. And for the first time in 5 years, Aria felt something other than grief or rage. She felt hope. Dangerous, fragile, absolutely terrifying hope, but hope nonetheless. Because tomorrow the people who'd killed her parents would stand before a judge. And the day after, she'd walk into Ember as the rightful owner. And the day after that, she'd start building the life she'd always dreamed of. Not despite everything that had happened, but because of it. Because survival wasn't enough anymore. She wanted to thrive. And she finally believed she could. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters by the time they arrived. Cameras, microphones, people shouting questions that blurred together into white noise. Adrian's security formed a barrier around them. Maya clutched Aria's hand so tight it hurt. "You ready for this?" Adrian asked quietly. Aria looked at the building, at the symbol of justice she'd stopped believing in 5 years ago. "No, but let's do it anyway." They pushed through the crowd. Questions followed them like accusations. "Ms. Bennett, how does it feel to see your ex-fiancé arrested? Are the rumors true that you orchestrated this entire investigation? Do you feel responsible for the deaths connected to Titan security?" That last one made her stop. Turn, face the reporter who'd asked it. The only people responsible for those deaths are the ones who ordered them. The ones who pulled triggers and cut brake lines and destroyed families for money. Her voice was steady, cold. "I didn't create this situation. I just refused to let it stay hidden." Adrian's hand on her elbow guided her forward before she could say more. Inside, the courthouse was quieter. Marble floors, high ceilings, the weight of institutional power pressing down from every direction. Agent Chen was waiting in the lobby. "Ms. Bennett, Ms. Maya, Mr. Voss. The arraignments start in 20 minutes. Courtroom 3. I've reserved seats for you." "All of them?" Aria asked. "Everyone connected to Titan?" "Everyone we've arrested so far. 16 defendants, including Marcus Vance, Daniel Cross, and Thomas Reeves." "Who's Thomas Reeves?" "Titan's founder, the man who built the entire operation, and the man who personally ordered your parents' deaths." The name hit like a physical blow. Thomas Reeves. For 5 years, her parents' killer had been a faceless monster. Now he had a name, an identity, a real person she could direct her rage toward. "I want to see him," she said. Chen hesitated. "The defendants will be brought in separately. You'll see them all during the proceedings." "No, I want to see Thomas Reeves. Before the arraignment. I want him to know who I am." "Ms. Bennett, that's not protocol." "I don't care about protocol. These people killed my parents, tried to kill me, destroyed my life. I've earned the right to look them in the eye before a judge decides their fate." Adrian stepped forward. "Make it happen. 5 minutes. Supervised. Non-contact." Chen looked between them, then sighed. 5 minutes. But you don't touch him. You don't threaten him. And if his lawyer objects, we shut it down immediately." "Understood." They followed Chen through a maze of hallways to a secured area, holding rooms for defendants awaiting arraignment, armed guards at every door. Chen stopped outside room 7. "He's in here, handcuffed, lawyer present. You have 5 minutes starting now." She opened the door. Thomas Reeves was 60-something, silver hair, expensive suit even in custody. The kind of man who looked distinguished instead of dangerous, who could order deaths over breakfast and sleep soundly that night. He looked up when they entered. His eyes were flat, calculating, no remorse, no fear, just cold assessment. "Aria Bennett," he said. His voice was smooth, cultured. "I wondered if I'd see you before this farce began. You know who I am." "Of course. You're Helen and Robert Bennett's daughter, the one who couldn't let it go, who had to keep digging until you destroyed everything." The casual way he said her parents' names made Aria's blood boil. "You killed them." "I eliminated a problem. There's a difference." He leaned back in his chair like they were having tea instead of a confrontation in a holding cell. "Your parents were investigating financial irregularities. They found evidence that threatened my clients. I couldn't allow that evidence to surface. So you murdered them." "I solved a problem, cleanly, efficiently, the way I've solved hundreds of problems over the years." He smiled. "If they'd been smarter, they would have taken the warning, would have stopped digging, but they didn't, and consequences followed." Maya lunged forward. Adrian caught her before she could reach Reeves. "You son of a—" "Easy," Adrian said quietly. "He wants a reaction. Don't give it to him." Reeves looked amused. "The younger daughter, Maya, correct? You were in college when it happened. Didn't even attend the funeral. Too consumed with your own life to notice your parents were dead." "Shut your mouth," Maya spit out. "Or what? You'll attack me? Please do. Give my lawyer ammunition to claim harassment. Taint the entire case with improper conduct." Aria stepped between Maya and Reeves, forced herself to stay calm. "You think you're clever, think you've won because you can manipulate the system. But you've already lost. Everything. Your organization is dismantled, your assets are frozen, and in about 15 minutes you're going to stand before a judge and hear charges that will put you away for the rest of your life. Perhaps, or perhaps my lawyers will find procedural errors. Perhaps evidence will be suppressed. Perhaps I'll walk free and you'll have accomplished nothing but painting a target on your back." He leaned forward. "Even from prison, Ms. Bennett, I have reach, resources, people who owe me favors. You should remember that before you celebrate too loudly." "Is that a threat?" "It's a fact. I've built an empire over 40 years. You think a few arrests change that? The organization continues. New leadership, new methods. And you?" He smiled. "You're still just a chef who got lucky, who stumbled into something far beyond your understanding." Adrian stepped forward. When he spoke, his voice was ice. "Here's another fact, Reeves. Every communication you've made from this facility is monitored. Every threat recorded. Every word you just said will be used against you." He pulled out his phone, showed the recording app running. "Thanks for the confession. The DA will love it." Reeves's smile faltered, just slightly. "That won't hold up in court. Illegally obtained, perfectly legal. You were informed of your right to remain silent, chose to speak anyway. And Ms. Bennett is a victim in an active investigation. Recording threats against her is not only legal, it's advisable." The lawyer beside Reeves finally spoke. "This meeting is over. Don't say another word." But the damage was done. Reeves had confirmed everything. His role in the murders, the organizational structure, the ongoing threat, all on record. Aria looked at the man who'd killed her parents and felt nothing but contempt. "You're right about one thing. I am just a chef. I don't understand your world of violence and corruption and murder for profit, but I understand something you don't." "What's that?" "That eventually everyone pays for what they've done. Maybe not immediately, maybe not the way we expect, but justice finds a way." She turned toward the door. "Enjoy the rest of your life in prison, Mr. Reeves. I hope every day feels like an eternity." They left him there, handcuffed, furious, finally powerless. In the hallway, Maya was shaking. "I wanted to kill him, actually kill him." "I know, me too." Aria pulled her sister close. "But he's not worth it. Not worth throwing away our lives for 5 minutes of satisfaction. He doesn't even care. Doesn't feel guilty." "People like him never do. That's what makes them monsters." Adrian's voice was grim. "But he'll pay anyway, whether he feels remorse or not." They made their way to the courtroom, took their seats in the gallery. The room filled slowly. Press, victims' families, law enforcement. And then the defendants were brought in, one by one, handcuffed, orange jumpsuits, the uniform of the accused. Marcus Vance looked smaller than his photographs, diminished, his expensive suits and confident bearing stripped away by custody. Daniel came in near the end. He'd lost weight, his hair was disheveled. When his eyes found Aria, she saw fear there, and hatred, and the desperate realization that he'd gambled everything and lost. She didn't look away. Let him see that she wasn't afraid anymore, wasn't the woman he'd discarded and destroyed. She was the woman who'd brought down an empire to expose the truth. Finally, Thomas Reeves entered, still composed, still arrogant, but even he couldn't hide the reality of his situation. The judge entered. Everyone rose. "Be seated." The proceedings began. Charges read aloud. Conspiracy to commit murder, money laundering, racketeering, wire fraud. The list went on and on. Each defendant entered a plea of not guilty. Each one was remanded to custody pending trial. No bail. Too much flight risk. When it was over, Aria sat in the courtroom and watched them being led away. Watched the people who'd destroyed her family disappear behind steel doors. It should have felt victorious. Instead, it just felt final. Outside, the press was waiting again. But this time, Aria was ready. She stepped up to the microphones without being asked. My name is Aria Bennett. 5 years ago, my parents were murdered for investigating corruption. For 3 years, I believed justice was impossible, that powerful people could commit crimes and face no consequences. She paused. I was wrong. Today, the people responsible for my parents' deaths are in custody, facing charges that will put them away for life. And it happened because we refused to give up, because we kept fighting even when it seemed hopeless. The reporter shouted questions. She ignored them, kept talking. To anyone out there who's lost someone to violence, to corruption, to people who think they're above the law, don't give up. Don't accept injustice. Keep fighting. Keep demanding answers. Because eventually, the truth comes out. And when it does, even the most powerful people fall. She stepped back. Let Agent Chen handle the rest of the questions. Adrian was waiting beside the car. That was good. Really good. It was true. That's all. She got in. Take me to Ember. I need to cook. The kitchen was exactly as she'd left it. Stainless steel gleaming, knives sharp, everything in its place. Sarah looked up from prep. Boss, we weren't expecting you today. I know, but I needed to be here, needed to do something normal. Aria tied on an apron. What are we working on? Testing the new tasting menu. Want to finalize it before the reopening? Perfect. Show me what you've got. They cooked for hours. Aria lost herself in the rhythm of it. The precision of knife work. The chemistry of heat and acid and fat. The moment when individual ingredients became something greater. This was what she'd fought for. Not revenge, not justice. Just this. The simple joy of creating something beautiful. Maya appeared around sunset. You've been here for 6 hours. Have I? Aria looked up. Time had disappeared. Sorry, I should have called. Don't apologize. I'm glad you're doing this. Cooking instead of dwelling on everything else. Maya grabbed a spoon, tasted the sauce Aria was reducing. Oh my God, what is this? Miso caramel with black pepper for the pork. It's incredible. It's my grandmother's recipe. Updated. Aria adjusted the seasoning. Mom used to make it every Sunday. I haven't cooked it since she died. Why not? Because it hurt too much. Reminded me of what I'd lost. She stirred the sauce. But today in that courtroom, I realized something. They took my parents, but they didn't take the memories, the recipes, the love that went into every dish. That's still yours. Yeah, it is. Aria plated the pork. Drizzled the sauce, you garnished with pickled vegetables and microgreens. Try it. Maya took a bite. Her eyes closed. This tastes like home. Like Sunday dinners and family and everything good we had before it all fell apart. That's what I want Ember to be. Not just a restaurant, but a place where people feel that. Connection, memory, love in food form. Adrian appeared in the doorway. The reservation system just crashed. What? Crashed from too much traffic. After your courthouse statement, everyone wants a table for opening night. He showed her his phone. We're booked solid for the next 3 months. And that's before we've even opened. Aria stared at the numbers. This is insane. This is success. People want to support you, want to be part of your story. He tasted the pork. And if the food tastes like this, they'll keep coming back long after the publicity fades. Sarah appeared with the rest of the kitchen staff. Boss, we need to talk about staffing. If we're this booked, we need more cooks, more prep, more everything. For the next 2 hours, they planned. Hiring, scheduling, logistics. All the boring, essential work of running a successful restaurant. By the time they finished, Aria's feet hurt and her brain was fried. But she felt alive. Actually alive. Not just surviving. Adrian drove her back to his building. The safe house was no longer necessary. Titan's leadership was in custody. The threats had ended. But Aria had been staying at Adrian's penthouse anyway. It felt safer, familiar, like a place she could actually rest. Maya was already there, sprawled on the couch with takeout. I ordered Thai. Hope that's okay. Perfect. Aria collapsed beside her. I'm too tired to cook anymore today. They ate in comfortable silence. Just sisters. Together. Safe. Maya's phone buzzed. She read the message and smiled. The memorial fund hit 500,000. They're going to use it to create a grant program. Help small business owners afford legal representation when they find fraud. Mom and Dad would love that. Yeah, they really would. Maya set down her phone. Are you okay? Actually okay. I don't know. Ask me in a year. Aria picked at her pad thai. Right now, I'm just trying to process everything. The arrests, the arraignments, the fact that we actually won. We did win, right? I think so. But it doesn't feel the way I expected. Doesn't feel like closure or peace or any of the things movies promise you. What does it feel like? Like I can finally breathe. Like I'm not carrying their deaths around anymore. Like maybe I can build a life instead of just surviving one. She looked at her sister. Is that enough? I think it's everything. Adrian appeared with wine. To surviving, to justice, and to whatever comes next. They drank. The wine was expensive and tasted like victory and new beginnings. What are you going to do now? Aria asked Maya. Go back to Seattle? Eventually. But I'm staying through the opening. Want to see you crush it. Maya smiled. Plus, I kind of like having a celebrity chef for a sister. Good for my street cred. I'm not a celebrity. You're on the cover of 3 magazines this week. That makes you a celebrity. It was true. The media had latched onto her story. Orphaned chef brings down criminal empire. David versus Goliath. Perfect narrative. But Aria didn't care about the coverage. Didn't care about fame or recognition. She just wanted to cook. To build something that mattered. To prove that you could survive trauma and still create beauty. The week before Ember's reopening passed in a blur of preparation. Final menu testing. Staff training. Press interviews that Aria did because Adrian's publicist insisted they were necessary. But mostly, she cooked. Created dishes that told stories. That honored her parents and her grandmother and everyone who'd taught her that food was love made tangible. The night before opening, she stood in the empty dining room and looked around. At the space she'd dreamed of. Lost. Fought for. Reclaimed. Adrian found her there. Having second thoughts? No, just savoring this. The quiet before everything changes. It's going to be incredible. You know that, right? I know the food is good. Everything else? She shrugged. We'll see. He pulled her close. You've already won, Aria. Everything else is just bonus. Well, when did you become an optimist? When I met someone who taught me that fighting for things actually works sometimes. He kissed her forehead. Get some sleep. Tomorrow's a big day. But Aria couldn't sleep. She lay awake thinking about her parents, about the journey from grief to justice to this, standing on the edge of a new beginning. Around 3 a.m., she gave up and went to the kitchen, started prepping for service even though it was hours away. Sarah found her at 5. Couldn't sleep either? Nope. Too wired. Want help? Always. They worked side by side as the sun rose, preparing ingredients, checking equipment, running through the timing one more time. By the time the rest of the staff arrived, everything was ready. At 5 p.m., the first guests arrived. Jennifer Walsh from The Times was there, food critics from every major publication, investors, industry people, and regular diners who'd waited months for a reservation. The dining room filled, orders started coming in, and Aria cooked. She lost herself in it completely, calling orders, coordinating timing, making sure every plate that left her kitchen was perfect. This was what she'd been born to do. Not fight criminals or expose corruption, just this, creating experiences, making people happy through food. Midway through service, Sarah appeared beside her. Table 12 wants to send their compliments. Said the Korean short rib made them cry. Good tears? The best kind. An order came in. 6 courses. The full tasting menu. Aria and her team executed it flawlessly. Each dish a story. Each flavor a memory. When service finally ended, she was exhausted, sweaty, covered in sauce stains, and happier than she'd been in 5 years. Adrian was waiting in the dining room with Maya and a bottle of champagne. How'd we do? Aria asked. See for yourself? He showed her his phone. Social media was exploding. Photos of dishes, rave reviews, people calling it the best meal of their lives. Jennifer Walsh had posted a preview of her review. Ember isn't just a restaurant, it's a resurrection. Aria Bennett has taken her pain and transformed it into something transcendent. This is food that reminds you why you're alive. Aria read it twice. She actually wrote that. She actually experienced that. Because that's what you do. You make people feel things through your cooking. Sarah appeared with the staff. Boss, we have a tradition. First successful service, we toast. You in? Absolutely. They gathered in the kitchen. Cooks and servers and dishwashers. Everyone who'd made tonight possible. Aria raised her glass. To teamwork. To excellence. And to proving that good things can come from terrible situations. Thank you for believing in this. In me. In what we're building here. They drank. They cheered. They celebrated. And Aria stood in the center of her kitchen, surrounded by her team, and felt something she'd almost forgotten. Pride. Not the arrogant kind. The earned kind. The kind that came from building something real and good and true. Later, after everyone left, she sat with Adrian and Maya in the empty dining room. I can't believe we pulled it off, Maya said. We? Aria teased. You spent the entire service at the bar. Moral support counts. Plus, I tipped really well. They laughed. It felt good. Normal. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression shifted. The verdict came back for Marcus Vance. Aria's breath caught. Already? He took a plea deal. Faced with the evidence, his lawyers advised him to cooperate. He's pleading guilty to all charges in exchange for avoiding the death penalty. How long? Life. No parole. Same for Thomas Reeves and most of Titan's leadership. He scrolled through the message. Daniel's trial is still pending, but his lawyer is also negotiating a plea, probably 15 to 20 years. It was over, actually over. The people who'd killed her parents would spend the rest of their lives in prison. Daniel would lose everything, his freedom, his reputation, his future. And Aria? She had her restaurant back, her name, her life. How do you feel? Maya asked quietly. Tired, relieved, sad that it took this much to get here. Aria looked around the dining room, but mostly grateful that we survived, that we fought back, that we're here. To survival, Adrian said, raising his glass. To more than survival, Aria corrected. To actually living, to building lives that matter, to choosing hope even when it seems impossible. They drank to that. The weeks that followed were a blur of success. Ember became the hardest reservation in the city. Critics couldn't stop praising it. Other chefs came to eat and left inspired. Aria hired more staff, expanded the menu, started planning a second location. But mostly, she just cooked, created, shared her love of food with everyone who walked through her doors. Maya went back to Seattle, but she visited monthly, always sitting at the chef's counter, always ordering whatever Aria recommended. Adrian expanded his business empire, but he still made time, still showed up for family dinners at Ember, still looked at Aria like she was the best thing that had ever happened to him. And maybe she was. Maybe they were good for each other. Two broken people who'd learned that healing didn't mean forgetting. It meant building something new from the pieces that remained. 6 months after opening, Aria stood at her parents' grave. She'd brought flowers and a menu from Ember and a letter she'd written explaining everything. We got them, she said quietly. Everyone who hurt you, they're all paying for it now. And your investigation? It mattered. It started everything. Without what you found, none of this would have been possible. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere, a bird sang. I'm okay now. Actually okay. I have my restaurant, my team, someone who loves me despite all the baggage I carry. She smiled through tears. You'd like Adrian. He's manipulative and calculating and absolutely ruthless, but he's also kind, in his own way. And he helped me remember who I was before everything fell apart. She placed the menu on her mother's grave. This is what I built. With your recipes, your techniques, your love of food, every dish honors you. Every flavor carries your memory. And everyone who eats at Ember, they're experiencing a piece of what you gave me. A hand touched her shoulder. Adrian. He'd been waiting by the car, giving her space. You ready? He asked quietly. Yeah, I think so. They walked back together. Aria looked over her shoulder one last time at her parents' graves. She'd spent 5 years carrying their deaths like a weight, like something that defined her entirely. But standing here now, she realized something. Their deaths didn't define her, their lives did. The love they'd given, the values they'd taught, the passion for justice they demonstrated even when it cost them everything. That was her inheritance, not grief, not rage, but the stubborn, beautiful belief that good people should fight for what's right, even when it's hard. She'd carried that forward, finished what they started, and built something they would have been proud of. That was enough. That was everything. Back at Ember, service was starting. The dining room was full. The kitchen hummed with organized chaos. Sarah called out orders. The line cooks responded. Everything moved like a perfectly choreographed dance. Aria tied on her apron and stepped into her place. Her kitchen, her team, her dream made real. "Heard," she called, and she cooked. Not for revenge, not for justice, not even for her parents anymore, just for the pure joy of it, for the love of transforming ingredients into art, for the satisfaction of making people happy through food. This was her life now, not defined by what she'd lost, but built on what she'd found: strength, purpose, the courage to keep fighting even when everything seemed impossible. She'd started as a broken woman hiding behind event planning, afraid to be seen, afraid to fight back, and she'd become someone who faced her demons and won, who built an empire from ashes, who proved that trauma didn't have to be the end of the story. It could be the beginning. Adrian appeared in the kitchen doorway. He didn't interrupt, just watched her work with that look he got sometimes, like he was seeing something remarkable. When she had a moment, she crossed to him. "What?" "Nothing. Just admiring what you've built." "We built. Partners, remember?" "Equal partners," he agreed. "Although this part is all you, I just handle the business side. The boring side. The necessary side." He pulled her close despite the fact that she was covered in food. "I'm proud of you. You know that? You've mentioned it, once or twice. I'll mention it more. Every day if you let me." She kissed him, quick, sweet. "Get out of my kitchen. I have work to do." "Yes, chef." He left smiling, and Aria returned to her station, to the controlled chaos of a busy kitchen, to the work that made her feel whole. Service ran smoothly. Every dish that left the kitchen was perfect. Every guest left happy. When the last table finished, Sarah started breakdown. The kitchen cleaned and prepped for tomorrow. Aria stood in the center of it all and took a breath. This was her life now. This kitchen, this team, this work that she loved, not in spite of everything that had happened, but because of it. She'd been broken, destroyed, reduced to nothing by people who thought she was weak, and she'd risen from that, built something beautiful, proved that resilience wasn't just about surviving, it was about thriving, about choosing joy even after experiencing profound pain, about believing that tomorrow could be better than today. That was the real victory. Not the arrests or the convictions or the justice she'd fought so hard to achieve. But this, standing in her kitchen, doing what she loved, surrounded by people who believed in her, living a life that mattered. She pulled out her phone and texted Maya. "Love you. Thanks for not giving up on me." The response came immediately. "Never. You're stuck with me forever." Another text. This one from Adrian. "Dinner at my place tomorrow?" "I'm cooking," she smiled. "Your cooking is terrible. It's adequate. Your words, not mine." "Fine. But I'm bringing wine. Deal." She pocketed her phone and finished her closing routine. Tomorrow she'd do it all again, and the day after that, building her empire one perfect dish at a time. But tonight she allowed herself to feel it, the weight lifting, the future opening up, the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the best parts of her life were still ahead. She locked up Ember and stepped out into the night. The city glowed around her, alive, vibrant, full of possibility. Somewhere out there, the people who'd tried to destroy her were in prison cells, paying for what they'd done, facing consequences they'd thought would never come. And she was here, free, successful, surrounded by people she loved. That was justice, not perfect, not what movies promised, but real, earned, hers. She'd fought for it, bled for it, survived when she shouldn't have, and now she got to enjoy it, got to build a life that honored her parents without being defined by their deaths, got to love and be loved by someone who understood her darkness. got to create food that made people happy, that reminded them life was worth living. That was her legacy. Not revenge, not bitterness, but beauty, joy. The stubborn belief that good people deserved good lives. She'd earned that belief through fire, through pain, through refusing to give up even when giving up seemed like the only option. And now she got to live it. Every single day. That was enough. That was everything. Aria Bennett walked into the night with her head high and her heart full, ready for whatever tomorrow brought. Because she'd already survived the worst. Everything else was just living. And she was finally ready to do that.